Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Minnesota Freedom Show. Take two. It's almost like false starting, being offsides on the kickoff. My name is Matt Birk. I'm running for Lieutenant Governor of the state of Minnesota with Dr. Scott Jensen. And Scott, we had some technical difficulties there at the beginning. I think a lot of viewers thought that maybe Tim Walz was behind that or that big tech was censoring us. But I actually called Mark Zuckerberg up on the Harvard hotline, and he assured me that it was not big tech censorship. So
that's right. You and Zuckerberg both went to Harvard.
Yeah, but I don't think he graduated. I think he dropped out. I think I know I did graduate. So yeah, I think he really looks up to me.
Does he ask you, like, if he needs money, does he ask you to help him do a loan?
Yeah, you know, because everyone knows I'm a pretty good guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so
what are we up to tonight, do you think?
Well, this is going to be kind of like, a little bit of the old school Jerry Lewis telethon bit. You know, we're going to have entertainment. We are going to try to raise some money. How much money do you think we should try to raise tonight, Scott?
Well, there's no question. I mean, the Democrats a machine. If they're going to raise 5 times what we're going to raise, I think we should raise $10,000 tonight.
You heard it here. Scott Jensen says we want to raise $1 million here tonight. Just $1 million. It's 2 hours. It's a long time. It shouldn't be a problem. And maybe we could raise enough money to get you a decent shirt. I wore my best shirt, Matt Birk for Lieutenant Governor. You can't even buy the purple ones, by the way. And I know how good I look in purple. Cretin-Derham Hall High School, Minnesota Vikings, Baltimore Ravens. So I wanted to give you,
No, I think that's the kind of when you wash it, it says Jensen.
No, it does not. The ink, this ink does not bleed. Okay. But I do need to wash it to shrink it a little bit. But I brought you one because you look like a doctor. We need to get you looking a little. So I brought you a Matt Birk for Lieutenant Governor T-shirt. It's a small because you're you have a very feminine build, Scott. But I had it altered just a little bit. I had the arms taken in, so it wouldn't be real baggy around those pipe cleaners you got. So,
you know, I don't even think I resemble that remark. I was at the doctor's office today, and I was seeing the surgeon because I get to have a hernia fixed next week. And
yeah, tell us more.
Not everybody gets that. I got some diagrams.
This is what old people talk about. They talk about their trips to the doctor. Yeah.
But here's what's relevant. So the surgeon says to me, "Well, how active are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm pretty active." And she said, "Well, how often do you work out?" I said, "I do 72 push-ups every morning."
72, that's 36 sets of 2.
No, I do them all in one stretch.
Yeah.
You probably want to know why I do 72.
Why would you do 72 push-ups? Why 72?
Because when I walk on the golf course, I expect to hit the ball 72 times when I'm done with the round.
That's even par? 72 is even par. Well, I've played your course, and it is a tough course. The hole that gives me the most trouble on your golf course is that one where you got to get it into the clown's mouth. I can never quite get that one right, but
that one you can actually get a mulligan on, I think.
Yeah. Well, but only if you're a member. Only if you're a member. Hey, speaking of members, well, you know, I want everybody at home to enjoy themselves tonight. You know, definitely grab your favorite beverage. I had a backpack of ice cold White Claws in my car, and I carry them wherever I go. You never know when you're going to need a White Claw, ice cold, and so I wanted to give you one so you can drink that during the show.
Yeah, I think it's legal to have this partly consumed in a car if you're in certain areas of the state and if you've got certain connections. There were a couple of people I worked with for a couple of years in St. Paul, and I think they said that if it's partly filled and it's left there for a while, it turns into apple juice.
Yeah, those are the ones. Those ones on the can it says DFL approved.
Oh,
those
DFL
are the ones where the alcohol evaporates after a while.
Oh, yeah, it says 5%.
Yeah. So, anyways,
well, thanks for the gift.
Yeah, enjoy that. And we're gonna have a bunch. We're gonna have a ton of fun tonight. We're gonna raise some money, but most importantly, we're just gonna hang out. You know, because I don't think a lot of times people get to see. We're gonna let our personality shine, right?
You know, if I could make a political comment, I think what we really should do when we're campaigning is we should try as much as possible to build a relationship with the people we're trying to represent.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's why we're going to be real tonight. I'm going to tell jokes and I'll make you laugh. And Birk, you'll try to tell jokes and you'll make people cry. And that's a nice blend.
Yeah. Well, you put a one up in the chat if you think that this should have been done via just radio with the way that Scott looks. But hey, this is the Minnesota Freedom Show, Scott. So I think that we should start off with the Star Spangled Banner. What do you think?
Sounds great. Let's do it.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. O'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave, the brave.
All right, Matt Birk, welcome back to the Minnesota Freedom Show. I am joined by Greg Joseph. And Greg Joseph, what do you do? Why are you here?
I'm glad to be here. I'm an attorney.
We're glad you're here too.
Yeah, good to be here. I represent the Minnesota Voters Alliance, and I litigate election integrity issues, among other things.
Okay, well, I've been out on the campaign trail a lot, and a lot of people are bringing up election integrity. It is very important to a lot of people. I've even had people say to me, why does it matter? Our elections aren't secure. So talk to me like I'm a small dog. Well, actually, okay, let me tell you a story. In 2008, we left Minnesota. I became a Maryland resident, and then we moved to Florida. I was a Florida resident. I was a Connecticut resident. So I was here for 12 years. Moved back in 2020 and went to vote in the election. And I showed up, and I walked in, and I told them my name is Matt Birk, and I handed them my ID, and they said, "Oh no, we don't need an ID." And I thought, really? Is that what we're talking about, the election integrity? We still don't have voter ID in Minnesota.
Right. So, yeah, you've touched on something pretty important, but let's just say that elections in Minnesota have been a mess for a very long time. And I think it's mostly because people just haven't been paying attention to what's going on. But that's changing very, very quickly. I mentioned to you we had this Supreme Court case in March that really shined the light on a major problem, and not just in the metro area, but across the state. And it has to do with who decides whether a ballot counts or not. And something happened in March that is going to make things a lot more balanced and fair when it comes to counting ballots.
Well, what happened? Tell us what happened.
Great question.
You're just keeping me in suspense,
Okay.
Greg. Way to tease me.
All right. So the law is set up so that election judges make the decision whether a ballot counts or not. And there's a big body of law. There's like 5 statutes touching on election judges. What do election judges have to be? First of all, they have to be party balanced. Okay, that's the biggest thing. They have to be the age of majority. They have to be able to read and write the English language, basic things like that. But the most important aspect is the party balance part. Okay, so all these statutes are written to make sure that election judges are doing the counting and the accepting and rejecting of ballots. But there's this one little sentence that throws everything into turmoil. It wrecks the whole thing. And it says, oh, but you can also use deputy city clerks or deputy county auditors to do that. Problem is, nobody knows what a deputy city clerk or deputy county auditor is.
I don't.
Right. So we'll cut to the chase. The door's been opened, and certain cities like the one we're standing in used nothing but deputy city clerks to do the accepting and rejecting. And guess what? Deputy city clerks don't have to be party balanced. So what happened in March? What happened in March was the Supreme Court said, wait a minute, okay, you have to have enough election judges to be able to decide whether these signatures match on these ballots. And if they don't match, it's got to go.
Okay.
So now we're going to have party balance in the counting rooms on the ballot boards where it matters the most.
Well,
that's new.
Okay, that sounds like good news. But I've also heard that last election, volunteers at the polls, the Democrats outnumbered Republicans in Minnesota 6-1, 7-1 statewide. So is it important that people, a lot of people say, hey, I want to get involved, I want to do something. Is it important that Republicans volunteer to be election judges, poll challengers, those types of things?
Critical. And it's critical, and they are. That's the great news. The great news is that since this happened in March, since we got that decision in March, we've been writing letters to some of these counties who staff these ballot boards, who decide whether they're going to be election judges or deputies on the ballot boards, to tell them, hey, you got to have enough election judges on the ballot board to accept and reject these ballots when it comes to signature matching. And they're doing it. These counties are calling back and saying, how do we do this the right way? How can we staff these ballot boards the right way? And to give you an idea of whether it matters or not, these are the people who are deciding whether the votes count. 58% of votes in the last election were absentee. 58%.
58%. The last election in Minnesota.
2020. Correct.
Okay.
In Minnesota. 58%
Okay.
in Minnesota. Right. So it's a big deal, and people are waking up, and it's an extremely positive thing.
Well, that's that's good. And I mean, again, it's like, why is this some kind of partisan issue, right? Because in 2020, of course, a lot of Republicans didn't feel good about the presidential election. And, when water mains are breaking, or there's 140,000 votes are being dumped at 3 a.m., you can understand why people are skeptical. But you go back to 2016, and Democrats didn't feel good about the presidential election. Shoot, I can remember when I was just sort of paying attention back in 2000 when the presidential, we were talking about hanging chads down in Florida, right? So why is election integrity partisan? I mean, to me, it feels like that there's laws are set up a certain way where a certain party, seems like the Democrats, have been able to manipulate the laws or the process and tilt the balance in their favor. But I think what you're saying now is in Minnesota, we can feel better. We can feel pretty good about this election coming up with some of the things that have happened.
Right. And again, with this sort of waking up, comes, for example, each party has to furnish a list to these counties and cities of people that could be election judges. Okay, so the Republican Party furnishes a list to Hennepin County and says, these folks can be election judges. And then the Democrat Party does the same thing. The DFL says, these are our guys to be election judges. Okay, and the idea is they're supposed to pick from those lists. Well, the Republicans didn't really do that until this last election in earnest. Again, they're awake now. So the party is furnishing these lists to all the counties and all the municipalities across the state. And so we've got people at the table, we've got people in the room who are making these decisions now, whereas that didn't happen before.
Republicans are awake, not woke. Awake now.
Correct.
There's a difference.
Correct.
So again, I mean, it's always critically important. We hear about it every election cycle to get out and vote, exercise your constitutional right, and fair and free elections are the cornerstone, the foundation of any democracy.
Right. And once we get too far, I mean, before we forget how much time we got left, but I want to mention too,
show. We can do whatever we want.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
What can people do? Okay. How can people get involved? Okay.
Yes.
What can people do? They can volunteer to be election judges. Okay. But don't just be an election judge. I mean, I'm not talking about people who hand out stickers that say I voted. They do a great job too. I'm not knocking them, but they want to be election judges who are on the absentee ballot board, who make the decision whether to accept or reject a ballot. They want to be in the room, okay? Be annoying, volunteer, contact your county commissioners, whatever, get in their face and tell them what you want to do.
And have friends in the room too, because when you do want to challenge, if there's 6 of them and 1 of you, you're going to get just kind of dismissed and overruled.
Yes, go with a handful of people, no question.
All right, That's great to know. Well, that's great. That's great. Hopefully everybody listening feels good about this upcoming election, feels good about some of the progress that Minnesota has made. And I think we'll probably be talking about this forever because we're always going to be tweaking and making sure that our elections are as fair as possible.
It's going to be a fun fall.
Yeah. Thank you, Greg. All right.
Yeah.
Minnesota Freedom Show will continue right after this.
There's a saying in politics, never let a crisis go to waste. So it's no surprise that when a pandemic struck, the politicians struck even harder. That's the problem with politicians. If you give them an inch, they'll take a foot. And Tim Walz has taken a mile. His micromanaging has destroyed livelihoods. His blind faith in bad models has kept families apart and businesses closed. And his mismanagement of state nursing homes has cost lives. Tim Walz says he listens to the science. unless the teachers' unions and special interests tell him otherwise. And he says we're in this together, but he'll tax every dollar of relief that has saved jobs and kept families afloat. And even after an entire year, Tim Walz is unable to let go of his endless, self-appointed emergency powers. Government does not work when its power is concentrated in the hands of a few. And Tim Walz won't let go. We can take it back. And we can do so much better. I'm Dr. Scott Jensen. For 30 years, I've been a voice for my patients. I've stood with them and cared for them through life's ups and downs. From the first breaths of new life in the delivery room to the bedsides of those who have finished their time on earth. Throughout my life, I've shared tremendous grief and great joy with my fellow Minnesotans. And I've taken an oath to protect them, to do no harm. What a different world it would be if politicians could live up to that oath. Tim Walz has not. We have a governor who does not respect our rights. A governor who has made bad decisions. And a governor who has done harm. It's time for new leadership.
Joining me now is Dr. Scott Jensen, physician, Minnesota State Senator. Dr. Jensen.
Dr. Scott Jensen, he's a Republican, a Minnesota State Senator.
Here with the facts is Dr. Scott Jensen, physician and Minnesota State Senator.
Let me get my guest in here. Is Dr. Scott Jensen.
Dr. and Senator Scott Jensen.
Dr. Jensen, first of all, thank you for joining us.
State Senator Scott Jensen. Senator Scott Jensen, Republican from Chaska.
My name is Dr. Scott Jensen, and I'm running for governor of the great state of Minnesota. We can reopen safely. We'll drop the unilateral decisions that created vacant industrial morgues and ridiculous vaccine lotteries. We'll have a governor who understands healthcare. And we'll ensure every child in Minnesota has access to a great school. We'll fund our kids, not broken institutions. We'll have a governor who knows that the best place for kids to learn is in the classroom. And we'll restore the most basic function of government to protect your life, liberty, and property. We'll have a governor who respects every citizen of our state. Our state isn't just rocks and cows, as Tim Walz has said. Our National Guard is not just a bunch of cooks, as Tim Walz has said. Tim Walz has said enough. As your governor, I'm going to listen to your voice and every voice that has been ignored. And like my brothers and sisters in medicine who have battled COVID head on, I will not back down from a fight. Today, I'm asking you to stand with me. I'm asking for your prayers and your support. And I am inviting you to join our movement by going to drscottjensen.com. Together, we're going to heal our state. Well, welcome back. We are having a good time tonight. This is the old-fashioned telethon, Jerry Lewis type. We were trying to raise $10,000, but Matt Birk raised it up to $1 million. So that's what we're shooting for, is $1 million. And the way to give is just to go to drscottjensen.com/freedom. You know, Dr. Conley, you might want to tell the audience why you and I are here together.
We are here together to talk about healthcare. Healthcare.
And what do you have to do with my doctoring, and what do I have to do with your doctoring?
Mostly just we work at the same place.
Well, how about the fact that we're related?
Also that. I think that might be fairly well known at this point, but if it's not.
Oh, no, not no? This audience that we have tonight is in the millions.
Okay.
Yeah, these people don't all know you.
No.
There's lots about you that don't know. Most of them know me, most of them know that my license is being investigated. Absolutely.
My license is not being investigated.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Yeah, that's fun.
But when you get to be my age, maybe you can also get your license investigated.
I hope to keep it in the single digits where you might not not do that.
So why don't we talk about challenges as a doctor gets older, like myself, and you're early in your career, you've had your medical license 5-7 years or something. So for me, I get older with my patients. They're sometimes they die, and I go to their wakes and funerals. Sometimes the process of dying is really painful. Sometimes it's a celebration of life, even while they're dying. But I'm not taking new patients anymore. You are. Mm-hmm. So what special challenges does a younger doctor have? Yeah. Fire away.
I think it's getting to know the patient well and developing that trust both ways, right? It's getting to know your patients. What are they looking for in a provider, and what, does what they're looking for match well with the kind of medicine that I like to practice?
So there's that necessary intersection, because sometimes it doesn't always work. Sometimes there are patients, and because I've had those, and I've had to say to the patient, I don't think this is going to work.
And I think that's a really powerful thing to have early on in a relationship. If I'm meeting someone for the first time and there's someone who's really interested in a lot of prescription drugs, right? Or they're not really interested in making some lifestyle changes to get on the right track, and they don't want to talk about that, then that might not be a great fit, because that's something I really love.
So you might want them to do A, B, and C, and they all have to do with what they can do, lifestyle and that, and they may want pill A and B.
Exactly.
So what do we have? We have less than 5% of the world's population in the United States. Some years we take 40% of the prescription drugs. I believe we consume over 80% of the opiates made in the world. We consume, I think, 99% of the Percocet made in the world we consume as Americans. How are you going to deal with that as a young physician who's got 30 years ahead of you?
I think what it is I'm young and my patient population is pretty young, especially the new patients that are coming to me. So I think the conversation starts early. It starts now, and it starts with preventing the issues that make you need medication, that make you need pain meds and going down that road. So it's having the conversations early on about eating healthy, exercise, sleeping well, all of those pieces that then will down the road keep you from needing the medication, keep you from needing the surgeries.
You're talking about a total paradigm shift, because if you look at the last 100 years, 1920, I think we found that we could isolate insulin from pigs, and that was a game changer for diabetics. We also, in that same period of time, we saw prednisone, steroids being identified, aspirin. 15, 20 years later, we had antibiotics. 20 years later, Christian Bernard did the first heart transplant. You got to have a lot of pills if you're going to do heart transplants. Yeah. Then we moved into the 70s, and we had the whole thing with the HMOs and the co-pays, and that was an easy time to get drugs. We treated any kind of infection with antibiotics. It didn't matter, and we'd go over and over and over again. But you're saying we got to flip that around. Do you think you're going to be a big friend of Big Pharma?
Not even a little bit. I was thinking about my day-to-day, and I don't think I prescribed any new meds today. And I think that's a really good day. It's a really good day for me if I can work with my patients and say, hey, here are some things that you can start to implement. And then we won't get to that point.
One of the things I've been struck by is that we are so tight. Oh, what is this? Oh, well, thank you. This is a White Claw. This is apple juice. If this sits about 15, 20 minutes and you find it in the car and you've been in a rollover accident, if you're in contact with the right people, this isn't alcohol. It says 5%, but it's apple juice, I think.
So, Dad, can I have that then being pregnant?
Well, you might be pregnant, but I've got a hernia, so we both have a bump. So we're sort of sharing the same thing. And I'm not going to have any, so I don't think you should.
How was your morning sickness?
My morning sickness, it's totally cleared up.
Is it cleared up?
We were talking about something else. We were talking about big pharma and drugs. But I think what's happened in healthcare today is we think that in Western medicine, if we're not doing surgery, if we're not prescribing pills, if we're not injecting something, we're not doing anything. And there are so many partners with us that want to help. Acupuncturists, nutritionists, life coaches, physical therapists, occupational therapists, the nurses. We've really done a terrible job of encouraging patients to form their own team, because one patient might want these people on their team, another patient might want these people on their team.
Yeah. And absolutely, don't get me wrong, right? We need these prescription drugs for certain things, but do we need to be as ready and willing and eager to start someone on them? Or can we take a step back and say, hey, let's do X, Y, and Z first?
Let's get political for just 1 minute.
Uh-oh.
I have advocated when I was in my one term in the Senate, I said, we should never start a new program without having a sunset on it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't put a sunset on it, it just goes on ad infinitum. Nobody's really checking to see if it's working. We do the same thing in medicine. We don't put sunsets on drugs. We give people pills, and people have to beg us as doctors, well, if I do lose 20 pounds, and if I do quit smoking, and if I start exercising, could I get off of this blood pressure pill? And the typical doctor response is, well, I'm the doctor here. Let's just settle down. You're on this for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And it is really fun to have patients come in where we have that conversation. I say, yeah, I think we should start this because right now we're not in a safe space. But if you can get there, if we can get you to a safer place, then yeah, let's get rid of this. Let's stop it. It's fun.
Okay, so enough about pills.
Yeah.
We've already said our spiel there. What do you like most about being a doc? Other than the fact that you get to work with your dad and he's no longer really your boss. You're sort of being more and more bossy, I noticed over the last year.
That's true.
So I sort of feel like I'm an employee. I get
a little removed.
Yeah, Dr. Conley, what should I do next? Go ahead, Dr. Conley. What do you like about being a doctor?
You always said this, and I was like, Dad's probably just like full of it, and this is, he's weird about
Could
that.
you strike that, please?
But really, it truly is the relationships. And I know you said that, and it sounds a little cliche to me, but at the same point, like when I get to look at my schedule before I go to work and I see the list of people I'm going to be working with, it's really fun. It's really fun to see them and say, how are your grandkids? I have one who has a little grandson named Ray. And I have a son named Ray. And so we love to talk about our Rays. So it's great.
You mentioned relationships with patients. Have you ever read any books about something like that?
There's one that I read. It's called Relationship Matters.
Oh, well.
Do you have it there?
Yeah, I happen to bring a copy.
Well, that's convenient.
Yes. I wrote this 7 years ago.
Did you write anything recently?
Well, I did, but this book started with just helping patients understand that the foundation of medical care is fracturing. When we start to break relationships apart between patients and doctors, nurses and patients, when we start to say, no, you're really going to partner with the insurance company, you're going to partner with government. And if you happen to be on a Medicare medical assistance plan, even more, you don't get to call your own shots. They'll tell you what you can do. But you asked if I'd written a new book. And this is a new book that I wrote. Let me give you a copy. These are hot off the press.
I have not seen this.
Yeah, this is like baking bread. This is hot. And the title of it is "We've Been Played."
It's a good looking cover.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I like the picture. It's good.
Yeah,
Exposing the triad of tyranny. So what do you think the triad of tyranny is?
Big pharma, big tech, big government.
Yeah, you're a smart girl.
I cheated.
Yeah, your mother's a very bright lady. But the bottom line is, the first book talked about relationships, and I tried to warn patients, you need to be in charge of your own healthcare. This book gets a little tougher.
Hey, great conversation, you guys. Hey, Dr. Jackie, how are you?
Good.
But I had to butt in because time's running short with Dr. Jackie here, and I need to know I have someone who I'm a partner, if you will, right now. I'm doing a lot of things with him, and I'm concerned about a health condition that he has.
Uh-oh.
He's got really, really small biceps.
Really?
Yeah, I think the medical term for that condition is biceptus patheticus.
I think that's right.
Yeah, and I was just wondering, is there something, can you prescribe him like vitamin D or anabolic steroids or something like that? Because it's kind of embarrassing.
It sounds pretty serious.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. I'm worried about it.
Is it something that is problematic for you as a partner? Like as his spending a lot of time?
No, I mean, I'm kind of used to it, but I can tell go out in public, like people stare at him, and I can tell it makes him very insecure. So I just want to.
So anabolic steroids are a hot topic right now.
Are they?
They are.
They were kind of hot topic back in the day in the NFL too. Yeah, they were.
Everything comes full circle.
There you go.
Did you take yours orally or injection?
I did not. No, this is all natural, believe it or not. Yeah. Hey, wait, no. So in the NFL, it's very strict drug testing. At any day you could be drug tested. You show up to work and there's a notice in your locker. We call him the P guy. The P guy got me today. So you'd have to go see him and you'd have to, drop
So
down.
in order to go into the NFL locker room or something, you got to pee and they got to check it.
Well, you'd have a notice in your locker. So you'd have to go check in with the P guy, an independent drug tester. And then you'd have to go nipples to knees, as we used to say. And you'd have to pee in a cup in front of him. But for me, I would just take my shirt off and he'd say, you're good. We know you're not on steroids.
This is interesting. So to go into the locker room, you had to do a pee test. And if you want to go to the Democratic state convention, you've got to do several things also. I don't think they have you pee in a cup. But
not yet.
No, but you have to be vaccinated.
Sample, maybe.
You have to be vaccinated.
To what be else? You have to wear a mask, a tight fitted mask until you get your negative COVID test when you're in there. And Scott, believe it or not, you need to show a photo ID if you are a delegate at the DFL convention. You need a photo ID to get into the DFL convention.
Do you have to have a photo ID to pee in a cup in the NFL?
You don't need to have a photo ID to pee in a cup, but you don't have to have a photo ID to vote in Minnesota either.
So you can pee in a cup without a photo ID. You can vote without a photo ID. But if you're going to go to a Democratic state convention, you got to have a photo ID, wear a mask, and show your vaccine.
Photo ID card, vaccination card, tight fitted mask.
Negative test.
And then you get a negative test when you're there too. So
what do you think of that, Dr. Conley?
I think that's a lot of, hopefully that, you know what would be really ironic would be a super spreader event there.
Yes, that would be.
That would be brutal.
The good news is the DFL convention is being held at Mayo, the building's named after Mayo. So if there is a super spreader event, they can just send them over to Mayo. They've got doctors there, don't they?
Yeah. Well, and a lot of times if they do have a problem, a super spreader event, I'm going to guess it's not going to be as bad as the news might say, because the other day I was reading a report and the Democrats reported that they'd raised over $2 million for, I think, the quarter. But then when you dig a little deeper, all of the money they raised, except for $1,500. So over $2 million comes in.
I think it was $4 million.
$1,500 came from small donors. More than 90% came from 5 individual donors. And then they play this game where Democratic agencies and parties trade money back and forth. And they can both count. So they gave more than $500,000 to Ohio. Then Ohio gave it back. So it was only an exchange of $50,000, even though $500,000 was being switched. But they both got to count it as part of their contribution.
Yeah, because Ohio gave Minnesota DFL $560, and Minnesota sent $500 back. I don't know who's doing the books for Ohio Democratic Party, but that math
seems like they're losing out there.
They lost $60,000, and George Soros showed up on their log too. So
if the thing sort of rises, I wonder if they know Bernie Madoff, he might be able to help them out.
Well, he's good with numbers. He's good at fudging the books. Yeah,
and I know he's got a lot of contacts.
Yes, he does. Well, maybe off camera you could give a prescription for my friend.
Well, you should introduce me to this person you're talking about, because I do 72 push-ups every morning.
72
with the hernia.
72 push-ups. I have a body weight of 130. That's quite impressive. Next, we're going to show you an interview I did with one of my former teammates who does not have small biceps. He has huge biceps. You know him. His name is Michael Orr, and you might know him from playing football, but everybody else in the world knows him because he was the subject of the movie The Blind Side, starring Sandra Bullock. And I still think it's true today that at some point during any minute of every single day, The Blind Side is being showed on some network. But Mike and I had a great talk about life, and particularly about education. Here it is.
All right, now we are joined by one of my all-time favorite teammates and people in the entire world, Michael Orr. Michael Orr and I were teammates in Baltimore. When I went to Baltimore, I was going into my 12th season, and I'd heard that we drafted this rookie, and there was like a movie about him, first rounder. There was this big deal, and I thought, man, I can't wait to get my hands on this rookie and make him carry my shoulder pads and beat some sense into him. But Mike, thank you so much for joining us. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Glad to be on.
Yeah, so all right. So I got to ask you a couple things here. One, how many pull-ups can you do right now?
Right now, I can do 10, but they're not clean. I'm all over the place, man. I'm looking like a CrossFit guy, pulling.
You guys see, this guy is one of the most competitive people I've ever met, and I'm competitive. And this is why I respected Mike for a lot of reasons. But right out of the gate, I always prided myself on getting to the facility first in the morning because I was a low talent guy. And I was like, well, it doesn't take any talent to be first. So my whole career, I'd get there like, I'm going to say, I can't remember what time it was, maybe like 6:45, 7 at the latest, right?
Yeah.
So first day I pull in and there's this car in the parking lot. And I'm like, who's here? And I walk in and it's Mike. And I'm like, dang, this guy's a first rounder and, super talented. He beat me here. So it was like 6:45. So the next day I'm going to get there like 6:40. I get there at 6:40. Mike's there. I get there at 6:35. Mike's there. You beat me to the facility every single day. And one day I get there and I beat you. I beat you. And like 5 minutes later, you come running in the door and you're like, my alarm didn't go off. My alarm didn't go off. But I beat you to the facility one time in 4 years, Mike. You were like, I think you slept in the locker room.
That's what they always said, man. And then one time I actually let you beat me because I was kind of embarrassed, man. Sometimes you get embarrassed for working out, but I'm like, hold on, these guys might think I'm playing around a little bit, man.
Man.
No, it was great, man. That's where we come from. That's the environment that I, had to be in, to compete for everything when you got that background. So, I've always earned everything that I've, got till this day. And, my thing is, never letting anyone down. So, I wanted to, even though I was recruited, had all this stuff going, I still had to work and I still had people depending on me. And, that was my only goal, was not to let anyone down. So,
well, I guarantee everybody that had the privilege to call you a teammate respects the heck out of you for your work ethic and for your character. I hope you know that. I'm sure you do, but I want to make sure you know that.
I appreciate it.
So listen, I think everybody kind of knows the general arc of your story. But I want to talk about education with you. Mike, talk about, for someone like you, where you came from, what you've accomplished, what role did education play, and why is it so important to you still today?
Well, the thing about education is for me the most important thing, because sports wasn't the thing that started this journey for me. I had to get myself up second, third grade to go to school on my own, even long before sports. I was waking myself up as an 8, 9-year-old kid and going to school. And I had to do that for years, even before I started playing football in the 8th grade. And for me, education was the most important thing. And, for everyone, if you don't know me, even when I was growing up in poverty, I always was a little bit different and wanted to be different. And I contribute that to, one reason I had to go to school, because I didn't have a home a lot of the times, and I wasn't going to have a meal. So, I had to start going to school to even, have a safe place to be. So I started that trend, woke myself up every morning, starting in second, third grade to go to school. So that formed something in my mind. Even I was just going to school. And, where I'm from, what I've learned now, if you don't have the resources in the education part by second grade, you're a lost cause when you get older, as years go on. Basically they say 8 is to 8. So I'm going to tell you the importance of that. I got to Briarcrest at 16 years old, the school that I graduated from, the high school. And being 16, we did all the tests and things like that. And they told me I was never going to be able to learn on a regular grade scale. And the kids had already passed me up, and education was basically going to be a waste of time. And I had all these mental disabilities, and that's what they were saying on paper. And for me, they didn't know the kind of person I was. I've always wanted to be different. I've always been a competitor, as you said early on. And, when it started off my sophomore, I was last every time the report cards came out. I'd ask a classmate how they did, and I knew where I stood, and it was going to be last every time. And as we went on, the competitive nature in me, wanting to be different, wanting to set myself apart, I competed every single day, in that classroom. And I saw from firsthand experience every day how I was changing mentally, physically I was changing, the aura was changing. And by the time I got to my senior year, I had passed up half those kids on the grading scale, on their report card, report grading scale. And they had been in private schools all their life. And, that was probably the most proudest moment for me, was passing those kids up on that grade scale and graduating. And then going down to Oxford, being on the dean's list. I made the dean's list at Ole Miss, and that's why I preach it every single day. I think with even for me, my goal was to have 3 or 4 jobs, not sports. And I knew education, and I knew going to school and doing the right thing for me. That was the most important thing to me in life. It was, getting that education. And I still preach that. And I think, every day, especially, I preach this. If I'm arguing with anybody, I preach this. And I had to bury my brother last week. And it goes back to not being educated on health, and not, starting, in that school and going up and being able to go off and do something other than sports. I think it starts there before anything else.
I mean, Mike, you're definitely, you are different. I mean, in a lot of ways. I mean, the discipline and, kind of against all odds. I mean, what you've done. But what was interesting to me when what you were just talking about is, you were 16 years old. You go into this private school environment, and they thought that it was like that it was too late for you.
Yeah.
But and obviously less than ideal, right? To be 16 years old and be behind, to be last in your class. But I think and again, it's a credit to you, but also if you put a kid in the right environment, I mean, even if it's 16, it's too late. No, it's not. Like if the kid is, if you put kids in the right types of environments for them, they can excel. They can succeed. And I mean, obviously, I mean, it's your story is very inspiring, but
that's
I also think
that's the thing with that. You label young people dumb. I was labeled dumb, basically. And if you look up dumb, it doesn't mean it. Dumb means mute, and you can't speak on something. So if those resources and those opportunities haven't been provided in front of you, of course I can't speak on that stuff because I don't know it. Mm-hmm. That's the definition of dumb. So we've been using that word, and one of the words I hate more than anything. And I made sure, as I go, through my sports career and everything, I mean, that's one of the words I've hated the most. And I've tried to, I read, I try to learn, because that's something, it's obviously it was with me early on, but those are things that I've tried to get away from. And, those are the things that, you can't, though, like I said, those resources aren't available for you. You can't speak on it.
Right. Well, yeah. And I think anybody that knows you or spends 2 minutes with you knows you're not dumb. I want you to tell the people here about what you're working on now with your school project, because it's easy to sit here and say, once you play in the NFL, hey, education's important, but you're walking the walk and you're doing something about it.
Of course. Right now my end goal in the next couple of years is to be opening a school for disadvantaged kids like Michael or myself, who don't have, like I was talking about, those resources and those opportunities. And, I was given a great platform, and there's so many other kids, who are out there like me, who are familiar with my story and are motivated. So, that's the importance of what I'm trying to do right now, through encouragement programs, through my foundation, mentorship programs, and like I said, putting those things and, sparking minds and taking them out from their environment that they're in and taking them to, those other environments where, they can see something different, because in reality, those are the things that really sparked my mind, going out and seeing these other places, these other schools, and being out there with people from other cultures and other backgrounds who weren't like me. So that motivated me. Hey, if they can, they can do it, I can do it. I belong here as well. We have the same mind. I just need a little bit of toning up. So, those are the things that I can remember the day when I said, man, I'm not going back. I want to be in this environment every single day. And the joy when I first got that first A on that quiz, that first A on that test. It was really, I got a high from it. I can't explain. It was like pancaking somebody on the field or something.
Yeah.
You know how tough that is in the NFL. Getting that. So those are the things that I'm trying to implement through my foundation, and through the programs that I'm creating, and the curriculum I want to eventually put into my school and other schools to, give them that confidence and, start putting these things into their mind and telling them, hey, this is if you can do this every day, this is going to be in your portfolio when 10 years from now, 108 months. That 10 years is 108 months. So we got to put it in that. You put this in there, in your portfolio every single day when you're stacking these up and you're transforming that mind. So it's a bunch, into it, but, just transforming those, minds and, because obviously time, it's moving fast now and nobody has it's moving. So nobody has time to even sit down for a minute to, go try to, get something done. So just trying to do it on a larger scale, a different kind of scale, and just making it happen.
Well, that's awesome, man. I mean, I know just your story alone, Mike, has inspired millions of people. And people, of course, they always ask me, "Oh, you play with Michael Orr?" And I say, "Yeah." No, I always tell them, I was tell them what kind of person you are. I always say you're the toughest guy I ever played with. You're always the one starting the fights after the play, getting the, kind of making. I mean, I was like the old dog at that time. I don't want to do any extracurricular activities.
No
you were the young pup, always trying to get people going. But you're an awesome teammate. But Mike, you're an awesome dude. I mean, I know this, but I love to see what you're doing now after football. Easy for you to just ride off in the sunset and be Michael Orr. But
I'm gonna tell you how important education is. Matt, of course he went to Harvard, smart guy.
The Mississippi of the Northeast. We call it the Mississippi of the Northeast.
No, we're the Harvard of the South down in Oxford. Yeah.
You're the Harvard of Mississippi.
Exactly. Hey, but first, second year, everybody on the offensive line, man, we had Birk. Nobody had to study their playbook. Matt knew every call. We knew we didn't have to study a single thing, man. I'm like second, third year we're in. I'm like, I used to tell you, when you leave, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to retire. This is going to be terrible for me. I'm going to have to open a playbook. What am I going to do?
Oh, man. That's what I mean. You know what? Man, we used to laugh so hard together. It's probably what I miss the most, man. That grind and then just laughing like this.
That's it. Every day I had a joke, a terrible joke to start the day off there. It was great.
My gosh. Well, I hope next year's the 10-year anniversary of us winning the Super Bowl. I would assume the Ravens are going to have us back and we're going to do something and we can get with the other guys and laugh like we used to. But
no question, that's going to be awesome, man. Great times, great experience. I talked to Marshall the other day for about an hour. He's doing great. But yeah, those are the times, man. You can't beat it, especially when you're around great people, hard working, hard-nosed, blue-collar guys who have great character. I think that's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
You like putting in work and being around one another. It makes it easy. No doubt. Man.
That's the winning formula for success in football, for building schools, and for life. Hey, Mike, I really appreciate you joining me, and it means a lot, man. Just always good to talk to you and see your face. And I'll keep you updated on the campaign. You keep me updated on your school.
Will do. Good luck to you. Keep doing what you're doing. Great things. Keep being who you are. That the person is the most important. And I brag about you all the time. Hopefully I don't meet any other Harvard people. So I can, you're the only one I brag on. So that's the only reason I call you my friend, because you're a smart Harvard guy. I'm just kidding.
Mike, you're the best, man. All right.
Welcome back, folks. We are here with the Minnesota Freedom Show, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce Christina Jacks. She's sort of a staple of news around the state of Minnesota. She's got degrees in nutrition, advanced degrees, but I think it's even more important, Christina, that you're about foundational health. I mean, you can do the nutrition piece, but you're about foundational health, and I'm going to throw you a lob.
All right.
Foundational health, today's Earth Day. What do you want to say about what your husband does?
Yeah, so my husband actually grew up on a farm in southern Minnesota. And so what is cool about that is I believe that you can't separate planetary health from human health. How you grow the food and then what goes into your body, you cannot separate them. I think it's foundationally important when we talk about Earth Day to keep local food systems healthy. And I firmly believe in keeping a small to medium-sized farm life in Minnesota is crucial for our economy, our planetary health, and our human health. So I'm very proud to be part of a farm family in the state of Minnesota. And I think Earth Day should be celebrating that aspect of health on the planet.
I agree. And I would go one step further. I would say, being a kid from Sleepy Eye, Minnesota, that it isn't, agriculture provides so many gifts to us, but I think one of the things that we sometimes forget about is it gives us some really good values. The farm life, the community life, small town living, greater Minnesota. I think until you've lived there, and haven't experienced it, you don't realize that there's a core value system there that makes you get up in the morning, contribute, try to achieve who you are, take responsibility for your own decisions, and at night you sleep like a baby.
Yeah, and you literally reap what you sow. You get to see that when you are in a farm life. And to be quite frank, one of the big problems with foundational health right now is we've gotten so far away with understanding how our food's grown, how to cook food. So that's the other thing when you talk about it. I think one of the big positives that you could help champion is to help bring back just basic foundational cooking skills back into schools. We've gotten so far away. Kids don't know. They think that carrots come in these little tiny forms in a bag at Target, but they're actually grown in the ground.
Well, yeah, and you can get a carrot spread, I think, on top of a Pop-Tart, put it in a toaster, and then you got warmed carrots. Is that what you're thinking?
No, oh my gosh, Pop-Tarts.
Oh, okay. So let's see. I was in the seminary, and when I was there, the rule of thumb was a good sermon is one that your audience will remember 3 things a week later. So what I'd like to do tonight for our audience is, you've got so much to give, but I want you to give us 3 things that if I see a patient or a viewer next week, I want to be able to ask them, what were the 3 things Christina Jacks shared with you that could be life-changing for you? So have at it. Wherever you want to go, whether you're talking food, supplements, nutrition, exercise, life coach, how do you live your best life? It's yours.
I'm going to give the simple ones because the simple ones are the sticky habits. So number 1 is water. I'm always going to say it ad nauseum. All of my patients and clients hear me say that. We've gotten so far away with just having pure water. Our bodies are about 70% water. So it is vital for thinking better, having more energy.
How much water?
So it's about 1 milliliter per calorie that you need. So if you need a 2,000 calorie diet, which is an average amount, you need 2 liters of water in a day.
What is that in 12-ounce pops? Does Coke count?
No, unfortunately, I'm really talking about water. And a lot of times people say water doesn't taste great or whatever. Well, add a fruit slice in there. Start playing with it a little bit. And then other than water, so sneaky ways to
So how many bottles of water a day?
If you were going to do like those little bottle, 6 to 10, depending on the size of the person. And that's, and start in the morning by just cranking one back before you grab your coffee in the morning. That's one easy way to start it. And then I would say the next thing, we always talk about vitamin D. I think I'm a foods first person all the time. If we can eat whole, real foods all the time, that's way better than getting it through supplements. Vitamin D is a tough one though, because we live in Minnesota and this has been quite a spring where we really haven't seen the sun. So we're not getting the vitamin D from the sunshine, and we don't for a lot of our years. So about 9 out of 10 Minnesotans are deficient in vitamin D. And vitamin D is very helpful for mood. and for immune system. And so I really do think that that's a vital one. We've seen that there's some really good data around respiratory illnesses too, and decreasing the risk of respiratory illness with adequate vitamin D.
What are some average or some typical foods that we might eat in a day that have quite a bit of vitamin D if we didn't want to take it in a pill?
Yeah, so fortified dairy is actually going to have vitamin D put into
fortified dairy being?
So like cow-based dairy, but even plant-based alternatives.
Cow-based dairy being what?
Milk.
So milk,
cheese, cottage cheese. So you have to look at the label because not everything is fortified with it. So make sure you see vitamin D.
What if you're lactose intolerant and you want to, what do you do then?
Yeah, so a lot of the plant-based milks are going to be fortified too. So you just need to look on the food label and see that it's fortified with vitamin D3.
Give me an example of a plant-based milk.
So an almond milk.
Okay.
It's fancy now. You can have cashew milk. You can have oat milk. So those.
That sounds a little nutty.
And I always.
That was a joke. If I'm going too fast, I can slow down.
Yes, yeah, you have to slow down for me. It's Friday.
Sorry.
But actually, the joke that my husband, who grew up in a dairy farm, always says is, "How do you actually milk a soy? How do you actually milk an almond? Because if you're milking a cow, we get how that works. That is the joke."
Sounds to me like your husband could keep up with me better than you. Okay,
I think that's
so.
True.
That's two things: water.
Yeah, water and milk.
Vitamin D.
My mom was a dairy farmer. I never broke one bone in 15 years in the NFL. Every time they gave me an X-ray, the doctor.
This is Matt Birk.
I would say she knows who I am. I'm wearing a shirt. They would always say, "You have the densest bones ever." So milk's good for calcium.
I could see why they use the word dense with you.
Yes, thank you. Well, listen, I want to talk to you off camera. But I've got this guy's business partner who's got this really bad condition. It's called biceptus toothpickus. Very, very small.
That's very rare.
Yeah, but we'll get that off camera. There's a lot of people who are in the chat right now who have questions for you, not for you. These are nutritional questions.
Okay.
Do you see a food shortage coming? And what should we do about it?
Yeah, I think the food system is very fragile. It really is. And it takes constant attention. I think there are going to be clinks in the supply chain that are going to lead to some food shortages. Widespread? I hope not, because I hope that our leaders act like leaders and start to put in the foundation that makes sure that we have ample food to feed our people. Do I think that there will be food shortages in certain categories? Yeah, I do.
So this question is related to that. Which foods are easiest to grow and store?
Yeah, I love that. So grains, beans, lentils. So anything that's in a dried form that doesn't have a lot of water, you can store
Pop-Tarts?
that for what?
Pop-Tarts?
Like 20 years. Yeah,
yes, you absolutely can. So processed foods, but then we were trying to do the healthy versions of things that store well. I know.
What do schools get wrong about nutrition?
Wow, I wish we had a few hours to pull this one apart. Because how it was put together, the heart of making foods at schools healthier was there, except it was done by number crunching, putting things into calories and sodium levels and things like that. That's not real food. So it wasn't taking into account nutrient density. Other than 50% whole grains, there was really no attention put on nutrient density. And we've gotten away from cooking from scratch in schools. So getting funding so that we can get the staff and the infrastructure back into schools so that we could cook from scratch instead of throwing out Pop-Tarts for breakfast.
Real food. And what can you store that's high in nutrition and low on carbs?
Oh, beef jerky.
Oh,
beef jerky, man. That is, it's a go-to. I'm a big fan. If you can get grass-fed beef jerky, all the better, even healthier.
Grass-fed, okay.
Yeah.
So Scott earlier, I don't know if you caught this, he was bragging that he does 72 push-ups every morning.
That's
there's
impressive.
A lot of people in the chat are kind of wondering if that's true or not. But we actually had somebody in the chat, John from A Better Minnesota, and he said he would give $1 for every push-up that Scott did here.
All right.
And then somebody else said they would give $1 for every push-up that you did. So I guess I'm putting you guys on the spot right now, but what do you say you guys do push-ups and you're each going to be raising money for the Scott Jensen campaign, but I think it's also a competition. I mean, this guy, he was bragging about his push-up prowess earlier, and she's just a little person. I mean, you should have no problem with, taking her down, right, Doc?
All right, you got this.
All right. So
and movement is my last one. So this goes into three things: water.
Yeah.
And vitamin D and movement. So here we go. We got to
I feel like I'm like the referee here.
Yes. Now, if I could just remind you, I'm having a hernia surgery next week. So
and you already did 72 push-ups this morning.
That's true.
And you're very old. Right?
That's very true.
That's 3. All right, so here we go.
And I'm in boots, but we
Boots and here we go.
at the same time.
Well, I guess he's already going. Are these body gyrations? What are these? What? I mean, we're gonna have to go back to the film. John from A Better Minnesota, you're paying for every one of these, okay? I guess he's gonna bang his head on the ground. Christina's using perfect form, by the way, just textbook form. Just the negative part of the lift. How many did you do?
50.
All the water that I
Look at this. This gal is a machine. I am going to take nutritional and movement advice from Christina and not from Dr. Scott Jensen.
Water,
I can keep going.
That was impressive. I'm declaring her the champion of the push-up contest. Thank you very much for being here, Christina. That was awesome. And now we're going to cut to a great commercial.
Hi, I'm Governor Tim Walz. And as we move closer and closer to Election Day in November, I want to take a minute to talk to you, the people of Minnesota, about my 4-part plan for Minnesota. First, Minnesota had a $9.2 billion budget surplus last year, and right now with gas prices going up and inflation rising, Minnesotans need this money. That's why part 1 of my plan as governor would be called the Give Back Less Plan. I will give you $150. Minnesota has over 5 million people, and if you do the math, I should give each Minnesotan around $1,500. But I'm not going to do that. The second part of my plan is simple. Get cops off the street. As we've seen in the past couple of years, Minneapolis and St. Paul have been run down by criminals. And what my administration chose to do, and will continue doing, is ignoring the crime rates and actively supporting defunding the police. Third, Minnesota was once a city on a hill in regard to education. Under my administration, that has changed. We want to continue to prohibit parents and kids from choosing their own schools and lock them into one school district, even if it causes our statewide test scores to plummet, increases suicide, depression, and violence in our schools, and even if our children no longer understand the definition of a woman. And finally, I kept Minnesota safe during the COVID-19 pandemic. Under my dictatorship, Minnesotans were locked down for months on end, and I even destroyed our economy, ruining small businesses and putting countless people out of work. Oh, and besides the large corporations. But I'm a Democrat, and we're the party of the working class. I'm Governor Tim Walz. Vote for me in November if you want 4 more years of hell.
And welcome back to the Minnesota Freedom Show. I've got with me a friend and a guest that is articulate, and he can basically cover a lot of territory. So let's start tonight, Mr. Lacey Johnson.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about what have you done in the world of politics, and then let's shift into, let's talk about life and the protection of the unborn. Well, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, my background is I'm from the South. Natchez, Mississippi, came to Minnesota, attended the University of Minnesota, majored in English, went back and took computer classes, ended up a career in corporate America, mostly in computer engineering, raised a family here, wife and 2 sons. One is 39, one is 33, and they all, one graduated, got his master's from Brown University, other one got his AA, and he's doing some business and music stuff. Wife is very supportive, and I'm just blessed to have that. So basically, what got me into politics is just people's lives. I thought where I live, I see a lot of stress and strain in people's lives, and I wanted to do my part to help do something about it. I think politics offer one avenue. I was a businessman myself, and I saw where there's a synergy between politics and business to help change people's lives. So that's one of the main reasons I got into it. I also got into it from a political strategy standpoint because, and I was telling someone earlier, I think in a lot of ways the Democrats are scamming black voters. I'm for political justice, and political justice means that if we're the swing vote in a lot of these elections, we should be getting more results in our community. And I see a disconnect there. And so that's another reason. And then there's some perspective on a lot of these issues that people are not talking about that I thought someone need to get out here and show a different way of looking at things. I think we have a tendency to oversimplify issues. I think we have a tendency to look at maybe one determining factor, a race, or gender, or whatever, and most things are a lot more complex than that. And I thought I could bring to bear some of my, shall we say, scientific methodology to problem solving. Sure. But once again, when you're dealing with human beings and not computers, it gets a little trickier. So that's what brought me into politics, just to make people's lives better. And just one last thing, I just think that people are getting a raw deal from current politicians. I mean, some of the issues that's been existing for decades, to me, is inexcusable and unacceptable that they've existed that long. So I wanted to play my part. And then when you get to my age, you start thinking about the parable of the talents. Mm-hmm. And I want to give God a good return on his investment in me. So I'm trying to leave the legacy of positiveness.
Well, it's pretty obvious that as a computer science engineer, you may be a little unusual in that you're willing to talk about any issue. Yes. You're willing to go anywhere. You on your own decided to bring up what's happening with kids and how they're educated and how race enters in. And we could talk about critical race theory all night, but I'm going to ask you to give me your 30-second take on critical race theory before we talk about the value of the unborn life. So it's critical race theory. This is 30 seconds.
Well, first word I use is silly. The whole thing is silly. I think what they're doing is they're miseducating our black children. There's this big achievement gap where you get out of school, they can't read, they can't write. They know very little in anything. And so what they're doing right now is basically teaching our children to grow up to be protesters, not successful individuals responsible for taking care of themselves and their children. So I just think it's a bad idea. I don't know how I got that far. And in the long run, it's going to be very detrimental to the country and to the people that's supposedly trying to help.
Lacey, I've never heard that before, but that's powerful. The idea of an education being focused not on foundation, but on indoctrinating in such a way that the end goal is protesters. Let's switch gears. Okay. You've been a powerful voice for the unborn child. You've been a powerful pro-life voice. Can you tell us how you got to your spot in life? Because I agree with virtually everything I've heard you say about pro-life. Right. I think people need to hear it from all of us.
Well, I think first and foremost, it starts with my Christian faith, my living my life according to the teachings of Jesus. And I don't see how any Christian, and I'm not trying to disparage anybody, I don't see how any Christian can be for abortion. I don't see how they can do that. And the Jesus that I know he would never be for it, except maybe where you have to save the mom's life. Yep. You know, all this other stuff. So
I had a patient in today, not today, but a few days ago, and she sort of confronted me and she said, Dr. Jensen, how come you want to take away my right to do what I want with my body? And I said, well, I don't really see myself in that place. But I said, if you're talking about abortion, I'm pro-life. Yeah. And she said, well, if I had a tumor growing in my uterus, you would take it out. And I would be the one to give the consent for you to take it out. Mm-hmm. She said, why does it change if I've got something else growing in my uterus that I don't want there?
Wow.
And I looked at her and I said, well, a life isn't a tumor. Right. And a life is, if you will, independent of your life. In other words, that life isn't really going to be something that you have to live with like a tumor. That life is going to need your uterus as a safe place until they can sustain life on the outside.
Right.
And I said, so I think that's your flaw, is you're thinking of this as some growth to excise. And I said, that's wrong.
Yeah, it is. I mean, just even to start off with that analogy to me, shows you where you're
away
at.
a bit.
Yeah, I mean, even start off with that analogy, though. But I mean, and one thing we can count on liberals to be is inconsistent in their logic and everything. If part of the argument is a woman's body, well, we can legalize prostitution and everything else. Is your body, you can do whatever you want with it. And so I think that kind of falls down in one way too. And then just the idea that you're going to just dispose a baby and get rid of it. And, you know, me and my wife talk about this a lot because you got to have some responsibility, accountability, and control. And a lot of the same people a lot of it's occurring because you're going out being irresponsible, going out drinking and stuff. And I don't want to stereotype abortion, people get abortion because there's all kinds of reasons. But I think I read somewhere that only 1% of it is because of rape or incest or anything else that they want to make exception of. But it's such an irresponsible thing. And to me, it's kind of selfish that you're going to go out and have perhaps unprotected sex. And then when you become pregnant, the thing to do is just throw the baby away. So I don't like that. And I tell people it's the same type of thinking and irresponsible behavior to make people go out to a bar and drink and hop behind a car because they're not thinking about other people and other people's lives and anyone besides themselves.
I remember when Hillary Clinton, in a debate, I think, or in some speech during a presidential campaign, she made the comment that she absolutely was comfortable with late third trimester abortions. And, you know, as a doctor who's delivered 500 babies, honest to goodness, what you have in that 35th or 38th week is you have a life. You have this newborn is maybe going to just be waiting to come out and discover some medical miracle or to be the next Mother Teresa. But what struck me was that at that point in time, this baby was 6-8 inches away from an independent life and could sustain life on his or her own at that point. So if a person would say, I'll concede the point, that life should be allowed, well, then go 2 weeks earlier and 2 weeks earlier. The bottom line is, this is not a tumor. This is a life. The idea that we're going to say, we'll take a casual attitude because people want one more dimension of birth control or one more dimension of total control over their bodies, it doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't. And I should say, too, that my position is a little nuanced and it's biblically based, too scripture based. There's a scripture that says, render unto Caesar that which is Caesar and unto God that which is God. And that's kind of like the whole policy or philosophy of separation of the church and state there. This is where I'm going with this. I would be in favor of overturning Roe v. Wade, but that's not my number one focus. I think our number one focus is to get to the hearts and minds and souls of the women that's contemplating abortion and try to change the hearts. So I think it's more of a spiritual issue than a government law issue.
Yeah. We can go all night on this one. Like this is good. This is good, Lacey. I had to interrupt because Scott was talking too much.
He would have worn his Jensen shirt, but it's in the wine.
It's at the bottom of my dog kennel. But there's people in the chat who want to ask you some questions.
Yes. Okay.
All right, Lacey. Do you feel like America is a racist country?
No. I think there are racists. There's racists just like there's murderers, there's thieves, and there's liars. And so we always have that among the human condition. But I think basically there's something called the bell curve of human behavior, the normal distribution, where you got a few people on this end, there's this way, a few people. I think there's a few people that's giving the whole issue of race a bad name. But I think for the most part, this is the most diverse, most, I guess, cooperative country there is. In fact, I think a lot of it's just driven by the media. In fact, I was just thinking today, we should challenge the media to take just about a month and just run stories of America's getting along. And my wife can tell you, when we out to dinner, I'm looking at women, men, black, white, blue, green, gay, straight, and we're all getting along. But the media tend to just focus on that little small group of people every day that's doing stupid stuff.
Yeah, maybe CNN Plus should have tried that. All right, this is for Lacey and Scott.
Okay.
DFL is trying to capitalize on cannabis. Well, what What would you do about that?
Well, I think we should consider legalize. To be honest with you, I mean, I'm an old school libertarian in the kind of like the Will Buckley, and who's the Nobel physicist, economist, Milton Friedman.
No, Friedman.
Yeah, and Thomas Sowell and those people who are just libertarians. So I think in a way, and it is creating some issues within the community that I represent, and that it's one of the main reasons there's a police force constantly in there. So I don't mind considering relaxing some of it, at least if not make it legal, make the penalty a little less. So I would like to see that.
And I've said the same thing, Lacey, about decriminalizing it.
Decriminalize.
I think we have this threshold value that's artificial. And I remember some reports where if a 19-year-old kid got caught with a joint in his pocket, he's not selling. He's doing what 19-year-olds do. Sometimes they experiment. And I think that if in a situation like that, I think that should be considered a petty misdemeanor. And I think that we can expunge records if there's no similar offense. But we've got to start having the conversation. But in terms of legalizing recreational marijuana, we don't have the ability to determine what's safe. How do you operate a motor vehicle? Those kinds of things. So I think we can have a long conversation about this. But Matt, I think one of the things we're going to do is we're going to have the chance to have this conversation with Minnesota over the next few years. I would want to point out our medical marijuana program in Minnesota is a pretty darn good one. It helps a lot of people that are going through chemotherapy for cancer, people with PTSD. I think there's 20 different eligible diagnoses. And I'm proud of that. I'm glad that the legislature is making some moves so that people that are on medical marijuana aren't paying 3 to 5 times as what the Colorado folks are. And the other thing I would say is, I don't think it's fair for people who are identified as medical marijuana patients to have their Second Amendment rights infringed on. And many of those people don't even know that by being an eligible medical marijuana patient, their Second Amendment rights are compromised. And many of those patients aren't even using medical marijuana, and their rights are still compromised.
Yeah.
We have to straighten that out.
That makes sense. All right, Scott's got to get you're going to get a headset on here, Scott, for the next segment. So
can I say one more thing about that?
You and me now.
To me, prohibition of alcohol didn't work, and prohibition is never going to work. And I see some of the same issues with prohibition. And keep in mind, living in the community that I live, it's probably predominantly black. That's their drug of choice. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them look at it like, I'm going home and have me a martini kind of a thing. Right. And so looking back in history where prohibition, we tried that. And I don't think it's the government job to protect people from themselves. Generally speaking, the federal government job. And so a lot of that is that. And once again, so I'd be open to considering that.
Yeah, I think it'd be an interesting discussion to have because there's obviously a lot of nuance.
Well, yeah, it is just a nuance. Just about most of these things, like I was telling him earlier, we're looking for simple solutions to complex issues.
Yeah.
And we just need to sit down and think through it logically.
Life is messy. It's a lot of messy. How can we create more economic opportunities in Minneapolis? Well, have to go too in depth here.
No. Right. I know. My thing is that the people that we're trying to help, unlike our opponents, where we're trying to do government programs and nonprofit. What I'm trying to say, we need to establish for-profit, free enterprise businesses in these communities that's doing business on a global level, and they got people in the community involved in it. So I think that's the main thing. It has to be free enterprise based type of solutions.
Yeah. And I would say that in order for that to happen, those neighborhoods, those communities, they need to be safe.
Oh, yeah.
They need to be safe. Otherwise, no business is going to go in there.
Yep.
Last question, which I'll answer. Okay. Where do I donate for this event? So glad you asked. drscottjensen.com/freedom. drscottjensen.com/freedom. And now this is all happening in real time. No, we're gonna stretch it out for a minute, I guess. Apparently, this is the beauty of live.
Yes, it is.
Jerry Lewis used to do this.
Yeah, well, you got to do what you got to do. We've got a call in. Yes. Senator Ron Johnson is calling in, which is technically the hamster's got to run on the wheel a little bit faster in order for this to do some comedy. Didn't I already do the comedy part? Do Scott's really small arms bug you as much as they bug me?
Well, yeah, they did. But he was doing push-ups over there.
I don't know if those were really push-ups.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I agree.
Senator Ron Johnson is on the line, we believe. Scott?
Ron, can you hear me?
Well, Doctor, I sure can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Senator Johnson, this is a thrill. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, first of all, thank you for being a doctor. And thank you for being one of the small percentage of doctors who have actually been willing to practice medicine and save patients during COVID. It's unfortunately not all of our medical establishment. I really appreciate all your hard work and efforts here.
Well, Senator Johnson, you have been a hero, and yet you've been a trailblazer. You've been willing to use the U.S. Senate as a place for the exchange of information. It seems like nobody else would allow that to happen. You've facilitated hearings. You've had people like Dr. Peter McCullough. How did that happen? How did you become so much an emerging force in health freedom for America?
It really started back in 1983 when our first child was born with transposition of the great arteries in Minnesota. Well, actually in Wisconsin, but we actually had the corrective surgery. Dr. John Folker at the University of Minnesota Hospital there rebaffled the upper chamber of a heart. And doctor, that's when the term, the practice of medicine really hit home to me, because they didn't just change the pulmonary artery and aorta. What they did is they rebaffled the upper chamber of a heart because the artery switch surgery was too high mortality rate. Now, of course, they just switch the arteries and the kids do fine. My daughter, by the way, is 38 years old. So, I have revered doctors ever since. They saved my daughter's life. And during the pandemic, I was just so disturbed that doctors were being prevented from using their full off-label prescription rights, that early treatment using the widely available generic drugs that work. So there's a cornucopia, you know this. You have to treat the disease at its different stages using different drugs. Doctors have to be free to practice medicine, particularly in the midst of pandemic, and we didn't allow it. The big tech social giants, they sabotaged early treatment, and I believe, as many of these doctors that are involved in these groups, hundreds of thousands of people died because doctors weren't allowed to practice medicine. So it so disappointed me. I couldn't sit on the sidelines and watching our completely failed response to COVID, how much freedom it took away from us. Remember, I'm the champion of right to try legislation, which, by the way, is being used today using a drug called Aviptadil, very end stage COVID. People's lives are being saved using right to try. So again, I'm for doctors to be being at the top of the treatment pyramid. Right now, for a host of reasons, over time, doctors are being crushed at the bottom of the treatment pyramid, and they're being lorded over by the Faucis of the world, bureaucrats that do not have the courage and compassion to treat patients. They're the ones making all the medical decisions, and that's just wrong. And people have paid with their lives because of this.
Well, Senator Johnson, you may not realize how many physicians your courage has empowered to keep pressing on. Without question, a lot of physicians are gun shy. A lot of physicians are not self-employed. They work for big institutions, big organizations, and they know that if they speak a contrarian message, if they do something that's too out there, they may well be putting their job and their profession in harm's way. Having said that, I always tell patients about this drug called Flomax, which is it was originally indicated by the FDA to shrink a man's prostate so that they wouldn't necessarily pee all day long or necessarily at night. But it's a very good drug off-label to help both men and women potentially pass a kidney stone spontaneously. It's unbelievable to me that physicians typically prescribe off-label 30 to 40% of their scripts. We've somehow become bad people that can't be trusted. We can't have the conversation with our patients to decide together, what do we want to do? How do we want to proceed? And your courage has really continued the spirit of so many physicians. I want to close with one question, Senator Johnson. As you look forward, and thank you for running again, thank you. But as you look forward, what are some of the big concerns that you have regarding health freedom for Americans?
Well, again, when you take a look at what I call the COVID cartel, the current administration, the healthcare agencies that have been totally captured by Big Pharma. And I've always been supportive of Big Pharma. You need to make a profit in order to have the research dollars to develop new life-saving drugs. I want life-saving new drugs, but they have been corrupted, and they have corrupted the agencies. Then you throw on top big media and the big tech, big media's social giants. That is the COVID cartel, and they not only sabotaged early treatment, but they also censored it as well. And so we've got to break up that cartel. That is, from my standpoint, the number one thing we have to do is we've got to put physicians back at the top of the pyramid of treatment. Physicians have the overall responsibility of the patient, not to faceless bureaucrats in the NIH or the CDC, their FDA. It's got to be doctors, and they have to be free to practice medicine. And again, I understand what's happening with the grant money flowing from the Fauci's of the world, our health agencies into, for example, university research centers and hospital associations, and we don't have as many doctors practicing independently. And I understand their legitimate fear because so many people have lost or certainly have had their license threatened. We've got to correct that. Doctors have to have the primary responsibility, but they have to be allowed to use all their tools, including off-label prescription rights.
Well, Senator Johnson, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm just going to say this. The words of Esther 4:14 were the words that drove my wife and I to make the decision to run for governor. And those words are, have you considered you're in the position you're in for such a time as this? And I do thank God that you are in the position you're in and that you've responded to it. And you know that your life, your job as U.S. Senator is for such a time as this. Thank you so darn much.
Thank you for what you've done. Support Dr. Jensen.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We're going to take a break now, folks. Thank you so much.
All right, now we're joined by a guy who's had a huge impact on my life personally. Everybody knows who he is. His name is John Harbaugh, and he is the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens and a world champion Super Bowl winning head coach. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing great, Matt, and I would say the feeling's mutual. A man who's made a huge impact on my life, certainly as you, and continue to admire you, and a Super Bowl winning center for the Super Bowl winning champs, Matt Birk.
Thank you. Yes, keep reminding people. So people always ask me all the time, I grew up in Minnesota, grew up a Vikings fan, drafted by the Vikings. I played for 11 years, and then I went to Baltimore. And says, why did you go to Baltimore? And I say, well, I got there. I sat down with John Harbaugh for 30 minutes, and that was it. It was over. I was signing with the Ravens after spending 30 minutes in your office. And people kind of look at me funny like that. But I say, John Harbaugh is the greatest leader that I've ever been around. Like when I think of you as the football coach, I don't think about X's and O's necessarily first. I think about you as the leader, as a leader of men. Is that how you think of yourself?
No, not really. I mean, I appreciate that, though. But spread the word, please. Spread the word, I mean, man, that means a lot. We had a great conversation. I mean, I remember we hit it off, a couple of Catholics, and we were kind of talking. We were talking kind of deep stuff, as I recall, family and faith. And we were talking about, our histories together and what we could, and we were talking about our dreams too, and what we both wanted to accomplish. And as I recall, we both were kind of thinking the same way. And it just seemed to make a lot of sense, and it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I sat there and you laid out kind of the vision or the philosophy that you use to run your team. And I thought, well, if I ever ran a team, that's exactly how I would do it. But we did. We talked football, and then we would go into faith. We'd go into family. And, it was natural. Like for you, I can remember one time we were in a team meeting, and you had called me out for something. I mean, called me out like you were coaching me hard in front of the whole team. And then the meeting ended, and we walked outside, and 2 minutes later, you're asking me about my marriage. And it was very like natural. And, you talk about, they say, are leaders born? Are they made? It's somewhere in between, but I just felt like, I feel like you're sort of like this natural leader. Like you can go from a conversation about business to a conversation about life, just back and forth very, very easily.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and it's definitely not something that's planned out. But one of the things my dad talked about, way back when, just kind of growing up, it's something that kind of stuck with, I think, both Jim and I. He always talked about confrontation as being a good thing, and it was a positive thing. He said the words kind of got a bad reputation a little bit, confrontation. And he said, and what came out of that was the idea that if we're going to be in an endeavor together, we're trying to accomplish something really big. We need to confront everything that has to do with that quest, confront everything, but not anybody. So when we have these confrontations, there's no, we're together. We're on the same, we're trying to line up together. We're looking in the same direction. We're walking together, trying to fight all these battles. We need to be shoulder to shoulder on the same page to confront all these things. And we need to confront everything like, hey, how our center, what call he makes or what step he takes or what technique he uses. We all got to confront that and be on the same page about that, or we're not going to be together on the same page. So why shouldn't we be putting everything out there and being honest about it from a football standpoint? At the same time, we know we care about one another and we're on the same team, and I think when you explain it to people that way, they kind of go, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Let's do that. It's not that hard.
A lot of football coaches love sayings. You had plenty of sayings. A lot of them still stick with me today. When I was there, you'd say we attack problems, not people. And you also said you got to have skin like an armadillo. Skin like an armadillo, right? Not like a baby rabbit. You got to be able to take coaching and criticism. And yeah, in the NFL, right? Like we live at a very gut level, because you got to get things right, and it's intense, and guys are putting everything on the line, and the way that we could talk to each other. I mean, confront each other when there was a problem. I think for the most part, like guys understood that. It's not like that in the real world for sure. Like I can't talk to my daughters the same way that we used to talk about, confront each other in the locker room. But
well, your daughter's the love of your life. So that's a whole different kind of a type of conversation. But the thing, it does kind of start with the leader a little bit, in the sense that, sometimes, because I think we all sit there and we all have our antenna up, like, remember my favorite Martian? You're too young for that show, but he had these antennae that would pop up. Well, we all have those antennae, right? And we all evaluate the person we're talking to, especially the leader of something that we're doing, your position coach or your boss or whatever. And you basically, it's kind of your BS meter a little bit. Like, is this for real? So if you're going to stand up there and talk about confront everything and not anybody and skin like an armadillo and all that, then is this just, I'm asking myself, is this real, or is he just saying this to kind of keep me in my place and get his way or whatever? So you've got to be able to confront the issues that you're dealing with too. In other words, you've got to accept that coming back. You understand it's a two-way street. Mm-hmm. So if you're a player and you kind of come up and you say, hey man, we're not on the same page with this, okay? This call is not what we said we're doing, and that's not exactly how it went, and this is how it went. This is what we thought. Were we right? Were we wrong? I know that happened when we were there together on a certain sack that happened against a certain team.
Yeah.
And we had to say, well, let's get to the bottom of this. So, like, really half of what I do as a head coach a lot of times is I'm Columbo. You're a detective, and I got to go dig in and find out, well, what's really going on, because I want to make sure that all my guys are on the same page with their coach, with the coordinator, with the other positions. And so you got to ask honest questions, and coaches, bosses, leaders have to be honest too when it comes back to them and say, oh, that's right, I said that the wrong way. That's not good enough. Or, you know what, we're going to change that because it doesn't make sense to anybody. Or, hey, it's just not working. There are certain things, there are methods and there are principles, and methods, principles are written in stone. Methods aren't. So if it's a method, if it's a strategy, man, let's always adapt it. Let's always grow it. Let's talk about it. Let's be willing to say, hey, I had the wrong idea there. This isn't working out. We'll change it. I didn't explain this well. Principles are different though, right, man? I mean, principles are the things that they're eternal truths that you stand on, that you stand for, and those aren't going to change.
Yeah, I appreciate so much the culture and the climate at the Ravens, this accountability. Everybody talks about accountability, but that can be, a lot of times people can say, well, I got to make sure that I don't screw up. It was very open. Like you said, we would try to get to the bottom of it. Hey, we just want to get to the what's best for the team, the best way to do this, the best way to block this protection. It's not about whose fault is it. And I think by having it open like that, and you would be the first to admit sometimes, like, yeah, you know what, us as coaches, or me personally, like, I made a mistake. This is the wrong way to do it. It really fostered, like, everybody. Everybody wanted to lean in. Everybody was nobody was afraid to admit when they made a mistake, and it really was about, hey, we just want to get it right versus, well, I don't want to look bad. And I think that was very healthy and helped us helped us win the Super Bowl eventually. So listen, I
tell, like, no fault insurance.
Exactly.
I was gonna say it's kind of like no fault insurance. Let's just agree that there's no fault here. It's not about fault. Nobody's at fault. We just want to ensure that we're getting things done right.
Yeah, we just want to win. So when I got there, you were kind of like, I mean, a little bit. I think you were kind of like hired out of nowhere, right? Like you weren't you weren't the hot name, that was going around doing all these visits. You're in Philadelphia for a long time as an assistant, and I think when the Ravens hired you, I think a lot of people were like, really? Like this guy? Wow, that was kind of outside of the box. Is that right?
Absolutely. That was the cold name. The hot names. That was the cold name. Nobody heard of me.
So you come into this team and year one, you guys go to the AFC Championship game, and you got this really veteran team. I mean, you got Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and Terrell Suggs. I mean, these are big personalities. These are guys that been with the Ravens forever. And here's this young coach and nobody knows about. And when I got there, I was like, wow, this guy, kind of unknown a little bit, gets the head coaching job, and he's managing these 53 alpha male personalities in the locker room. Some of them like super alphas. I mean, how did you as a young coach, not have been a head coach before, come into that situation? Was it intimidating when you're looking around the locker room and you're saying like, wow, there's some of the all-time greats are here?
Yeah, well, I remember Rex Ryan, who stayed on, as you remember, for a year there as a defensive coordinator. He told me that he said two things about the Ravens job, but there was 5 jobs open that year. And he said, just so you know, Harbs, he said, this is the best job, but it's also by far the hardest job. And for all the reasons that you talked about. And he says, you're going to be walking into the lion's den when you come in here and you deal with it. And they had a lot of issues. They were a very divided team at the time. And, and it was kind of like, kind of who's running things. So you talk about being born to it or grow to it or whatever those things are. I don't really know. But I also remember thinking, well, I'm not coming in here to keep the job, because I wasn't even supposed to have the job. I'm coming in here to do the job, and I'm going to do the job. And so the type of thing you're talking about, that lack of credibility, so to speak, outwardly anyway, was definitely real. But I kind of ignored it because I knew that I wasn't backing down. And when Steve, and I thank Steve Bisciotti for making the decision, the out of the box decision, to hire me. I hope he's happy with the decision now after these years. But basically, he saw something and he wanted certain things and done a certain way. I think he was a little bit surprised once we got into it about maybe how hard it was or the positions they had to take. But basically, what I took the position was I'm not backing down.
Yeah.
So I'm responsible for certain things. There's a certain vision I have. I want this thing. We're going to be disciplined. We're going to do things right. I told the team the first day, listen, I respect you guys. I think the world has a vision of you that's not exactly right. I think you're men of character. You're tough, hard-nosed people. You're mentally tough. You're righteous people, but you're wearing the black hat. The whole country thinks that you're the villains, and you're not. And we're going to change that. We're going to take off the white hat, the black hat. We're going to put on the white hat, in the cowboy movie parlance of old, right? Yeah. We're going to be the good guys. All right. That's who we're going to be. And we're going to stand for what you all believe in and who you really are. That was kind of my high road speech to kind of make the point of, okay, now here's how we're going to do it. And basically I'm not backing off, I'm not backing down, whether it's a method like how we're going to dress on a plane and what kind of shoes we're going to wear, or whether we're going to run to the ball or not, or how we're going to conduct ourselves, when we get called for a penalty or whatever. Then usually I had to get pulled back from the referee half the time by my players and basically say, hey, dude, I thought you said we were going to put the white hat on here. Oh, yeah, right. I forgot for a second. But, just kind of basically when things came up and things got challenging, you just don't back down. And I could have got fired at some point in time, but at least it would have been, I would have been fired doing it my way, the way I believed was right. And I think ultimately the guys respected that, and they kind of believed in it after a while.
No doubt. No, you earned the respect, no doubt. And then you're talking about, courage, and courage so important when it comes to leadership. And my running mate, Scott Jensen, showed a lot of courage the last couple of years in the pandemic, standing up for what is right and speaking truth, and, having his medical license investigated 5 times and beating him every single time. But, this is interesting. So of course my boys, huge Ravens fans. When we went to Baltimore, my oldest son was 1. 2 of my sons were born there. Grant, he was 5 when we won the Super Bowl. He remembers being on the field. So, of course, he's a lifelong Ravens fan. In fact, a couple years ago for Halloween, he went as John Harbaugh. I think I sent you that picture. He went as John Harbaugh.
I still have that.
But
who does that?
Yeah, I think he might have been the only one, the only kid in America. But this is what I love. So many things, but this is what I love. So in the NFL, it's real simple, right? Real simple. You just got to get a franchise quarterback. Guy 6'4", good hair, big arm, and then you put some pieces around him and you go win a Super Bowl, right? And it's super simple. The only problem is there's only 7 of those guys walking the face of the earth. So the Ravens. So you guys have a lot of success. Joe Flacco. Everybody, Joe's nearing the end of his career, and you get to the draft, and it's like, okay, well, we're picking. I think did you guys trade to get the 32nd pick? Did you trade up to get? So there's no apparent Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady in the draft, but you guys say, hey, here's a guy. It's a little bit different, Lamar Jackson. So you go and you draft Lamar Jackson, who's not your prototypical franchise quarterback, and you say we're gonna try it differently. And then you take him, make him your quarterback, and then you kind of reconfigure the whole team around him and his style of play. And, okay, you have not won a Super Bowl yet with Lamar Jackson as your quarterback. I think you will, but it's working. Talk about courage. You had the courage to try it a different way. And if it doesn't work, even though you won a Super Bowl, you're one bad season away from getting fired, right? Every coach is, right?
Sure,
but
of course.
But can you talk about that? Like where did that come from to say, hey, we're gonna take a big chance and try a different formula?
Right. Well, exactly what it's interesting that you bring that up because it's football and it's just football, but also football is a metaphor for life, just like a lot of things are in life, right? And like what you and Scott talk about, what I respect so much, and I've known you all these years, and I know Scott through you, it's a metaphor in the sense that the way we view things is not always the way that things are. And there are so many people out there in our society that just need an opportunity. And do we look at them in a certain way and say, you know what, they don't fit the mold. That's not what a doctor looks like. That's not what a lawyer looks like. That's not what a Harvard admittee looks like. They looked a certain way. And we end up, we're kind of like captive of our impressions about what we've seen in the past. Just like Lamar Jackson doesn't look like the quarterback that's been successful in the past, the Brady's, the Mannings, but those guys are hard to find. But he's talented. He's got skills. He's got abilities. It's my job as a coach, or it's my job as a teacher, or it's my job as a governor, as a politician. It's my job as the head of a company to unlock that talent and those abilities and put people in position to be successful at what they do so well. And that's kind of what we're trying to do with Lamar. It's like we know he's ultra talented. If he looked like a quarterback, or if his style had been the last 30 years, he'd have been the number 1 pick in the draft. So we got a great value in this guy. How much overlooked talent is there out there in our country, whether it's in the inner cities because of the education that people are receiving, poverty, socioeconomic status? Oh, just the gift that you and I had of having amazing parents. I'm so grateful for that gift. Not everybody gets that gift, but who can be, who needs a shot? Who needs a chance? And how do we give that to everybody? To me, that's the American dream. That's what this country is all about. Go all the way back. That's what we've always aspired to, and what we still aspire to. And that's what you aspire to. I know you do, because that's what you're all about. So to me, that's where Lamar is the metaphor. And that's why so many people, so many kids are wearing his outfit and being Lamar Jackson at Halloween. So many that this is my favorite quarterback, because they intuitively understand what's at stake here, sort of. Basically saying, you know what, there's a lot of people out there that can do a lot of things that maybe we didn't anticipate before. Let's take a look.
Yeah, that's great. Harvs, I could talk to you forever about everything. Literally. But just so appreciate you joining me tonight, and just for I'm just so glad God brought us together. Those 4 years in Baltimore, yeah, we won the Super Bowl. So everyone say, oh, it worked out. Even if we had not won the Super Bowl, it would have been such an amazing 4 years for me and my family, and getting to know you, and growing in my faith, growing as a man. I remember the conversations we used to have. I'd be laying on the training table, icing something because I was, my body was about to fall apart. Talking about our wives or our kids. And it's just awesome. But man, appreciate you joining, and know that the Birk boys will be rooting hard for you this fall.
I'll get those Halloween costumes out, but I'll send the Lamar Jackson ones this year. But,
Yeah.
But hey, man, thanks for having me on. And I'll just say this: the friendship is the main thing, and the friendship that we have with you, with your family, with your amazing family. Who I got to see these kids all grown up now from all these years and see what they're doing. But you're just a special person, and the things that you do, whatever you do, I support, because I know you care about people. You have a heart for people. You want to help people be their very best, help them do the things they need to do to become their best, man. And I'm proud of you. And I know you're going to be successful. I know you're going to win. And you got my undying support.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Harbs. All right. So next, here's a little bit of a treat for you. I used to moonlight as a stand-up comedian. I've done comedy in Chicago, New York, all over the country. I think I've retired. I think I've hung up my comedy shoes, if you will. But here's a little stand-up comedy bit for me. And I tell you what, watch this. And every time you laugh, please make a $1 donation to the Scott Jensen campaign, drscottjensen.com/freedom. All right, check this out. Hey, thank you very much. You guys are wow, what a great crowd here. Yeah, I said my name is Matt Birk. I'm a former Minnesota Viking and Super Bowl champion. Realize those two words don't often collide in the same sentence, so kind of like a unicorn. People used to come up to me all the time, and they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, you play for the Vikings? That's so awesome!" And I would say, "Do you know what a center does?" I mean, every single day I would wake up and I'd go to work and I'd bend over and a guy would put his hands underneath me. Takes a little getting used to. And then I'd snap the ball to him between my legs, and then about 2 inches from my face, there was a 350-pound nose tackle who had a short rap sheet and bad intentions, and he would just try to knock my head off play after play after play after play. So it's not all it's cracked up to be, kids. Just so you know. So I used to be a lot bigger. I used to be like about 315 pounds. I'm down considerably. Thank you for noticing. And I go to the gym a lot, and there's a lot of people at the gym who are like really, really serious worker outers. I mean, these people are into it, but some of the stuff I see them doing, I don't get it at all. Are you familiar with these kettlebells? These people, they do these kettlebell swings like this, There's only one thing I do when I do this motion like this. I'm not sure what muscles, but there's only one thing I do that when I'm using that muscle group, and strength really isn't an issue for me. It's more of an endurance challenge, if you will. So yeah, I have 8 children with 3 different women. Yeah, that's right. Two of my kids are adopted. Oh, you thought because I played in the NFL that I was. No, 8 kids with 3 different women. And my wife, she doesn't really like that joke a whole lot. I remember the first day that I figured that out, I came home. I was like, honey, I had 8 kids. I got 3 baby mamas, like that's a lot of street cred, and I was kind of happy. And she said, that's not funny. It's not funny. I was like, no, it's funny. It's funny. You get it? Because, 2 of our kids adopt. She goes, yeah, it's not funny. And then she said, well, okay, if you have 8 kids with 3 baby mamas, she goes, I have 8 kids with 3 baby daddies. And I was like, that's not funny. It's not funny at all. So my wife is super hot. And I know you're looking at me and you're saying, well, you're not much to look at. And you're right. But I'm rich. So that's how that works out. And I've basically trapped my wife in our marriage, because if she ever wanted to leave me, there is not a guy on the face of the earth that would date a single woman who has 8 children. Not one. I mean, she is locked in for life. Me, I mean, I think I could do okay out there. You know, I'd say like, yeah, I have 8 kids. I love my kids. They'd be like, oh, you're such a good dad. But you know, women would understand that. But there's not a man alive that wants to date a woman with 8 kids. So when people ask me how does your marriage work, I say it works because of entrapment. That's why it works. Hey, you guys have been great. Don't forget to tip your waitresses and try the veal. It's the best in the city. Good night, everybody.
All right, well, finally, the moment that everybody's been waiting for.
That was awesome.
That was incredible. That was incredible.
Thank you.
How come they didn't ask me to do that?
Because you're not very funny, Scott.
Okay, but other than that, you're perfectly cut out for comedy.
Mm-hmm. There you go. He's funny to look at.
Yeah,
so, anyways, the moment that everybody's been waiting for, the live Q&A.
Yeah.
Dr. Scott Jensen and Matt Birk. We've got a ton of questions.
This is the White Claw hot seat right here.
The White Claw hot seat.
Yeah, White Claw hot seat.
Okay, so I'm just going to jump right into it like I always do. One of the first questions that we got is from Elliot. They ask, how will you engage with CD5 voters? So either of you can take that away.
well, I'll jump in and I'll just pass it on to Matt quickly. But you do exactly what Matt did the other day. You went to North Minneapolis and you said, I want to learn more. We don't go in with answers.
Right.
You go in with questions.
No, I mean,
That's what you did.
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing is just show up. Yeah. I mean, just show up. I think that our party for a long time, and that's what I heard on Monday, was we just stopped showing up. We just sort of we gave up as politicians, gave up on CD5 and getting any votes. And I mean, votes or not. I mean, North Minneapolis, I think it was 14 miles from my house. 14 miles from my house where I live. I mean, it's a totally different world. And to me, it's just as a Minnesotan, as a human being, it's just unacceptable that people 14 miles away from me can live that way, where they literally have to fear for their lives walking down the street, where there's drug deals happening in broad daylight, where a majority of the buildings are boarded up and vacant, or even the businesses that are open, they're still boarded up because they're worried about people breaking the windows. That's just not acceptable.
Well, to add misery to misery, it seemed like we didn't care that the Republican Party was being perceived as a bunch of old white guys. I mean, if we can't have that kind of hard conversation, I'm sorry, we don't need more flavor of old white guys in the Republican Party. We need more moms. We need more mama bears, warrior dads. But we need more people from North Minneapolis and North St. Paul and South St. Paul. We need to go to millennials and Gen Zs, and with a certain touch of humility, we need to say, hey, we need you at the table. Our generation has not solved the problems. We've kicked the damn can down the road. We've got to say, just because you didn't memorize the 50 capitals of this 50 states like I did in 4th grade, doesn't mean a hill of beans. The younger generations are so much more intuitive. Matt, you made a comment earlier on in the program about the fact that back in 2000, there weren't a lot of cell phones and stuff like that. The world has changed immensely. And frankly, the Republican Party needs to change with it.
Yeah, and you know what? I was when I was driving through there, one of the things that struck me, because we had Michael Orr on earlier, and Michael, whose story is well documented, and what he said in the interview that really stuck with me was he goes, I'm not dumb. He goes, I wasn't good in school, but all I needed was to be in the right environment. And I thought, and Michael was talking about he's a different kind of guy, as you saw in the interview. He's just wired different than most people. But when I was driving around North Minneapolis, I was thinking, as bad as things are, maybe in that house right there, there's a kid he's gonna make it out. He might go to Harvard and play in the NFL, or he might go to the University of Minnesota and become a teacher, or she might become a doctor. I mean, there's that's gonna happen out of there, right? I mean, certain people just by the grace of God and by their own perseverance and character, they make it out. But all some of those kids need is just a little bit of help. And you see, this is not a new problem. And you go to Minneapolis or the east side of St. Paul, this is not a new problem. And shame on all of us in Minnesota that we would allow these communities to flounder for decades and decades. Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter. If we really wanted it fixed, I believe we can fix it.
I want to just say one thing. I think that's right. Shame on all of us because we can be so much better. But if we're not able to take a 7-year-old black kid or a 9-year-old Hispanic or a 10-year-old Somali and put him with a Scandinavian 11-year-old and put them together and just have at it. Just enjoy one another. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
And we can be so much better. We can be so much better.
Yeah.
And you know where we get the better from? We get the better from these questions because these people asking the questions, they have nothing to fear from us. They know they can have at it and just ask us any question they can, and we will answer.
Well, with that being said, let's move on to the next one. Nancy asks, what are your greatest needs for volunteers?
I mean, I'll go back to this election integrity, and from what I hear on the campaign trail, people are really concerned. They want to know that this is going to be a free and fair election, and that their vote's going to count. And so, I think if you want to get involved. Volunteer to be an election judge, a poll challenger. Get involved in the process, like so many people have because of you, Scott, and in this movement. But I think that's a great way to get involved in the process and exercise your civic duty, if you will, as an American citizen.
That's a great answer. And I think that I would encourage people to be bold. We need strong, bold players. And that means some of these voting districts are going to be tough. Some of these poll places are going to be tough in the sense that there will be an effort to intimidate. We cannot be intimidated. Arguably, this is our last best chance. We need to not have 20,000 Democratic election judges and 3,000 Republican election judges. We have to have parity. But as Matt said, we've got to have poll watchers. We've got to do everything we can, not to cheat, but to do it right.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to move on to the next question. And I'm going to ask this to you, Matt, because I know you're passionate about education. Tara asks, what will you do about CRT?
I mean, well, we have to get rid of it completely. I mean, one of the blessings of the pandemic was that a lot of parents got a peek into what was going on inside in the classroom. And it's not happening in every classroom, but it's happening enough. We have to eliminate CRT. It's absolutely ridiculous to tell a child who is malleable, who's impressionable, that the color of somebody's skin is the most important thing, that the color of somebody's skin tells you a lot about that person, tells you nothing about that person. One of the many great blessings that I had from playing football for 15 years, it's a predominantly black profession. And in the NFL, back then, I don't know what they do now, but back then there was no onboarding. There was no diversity, equity, and inclusion. I mean, there was no sensitivity training. You showed up and it was like, all right, it's you 53 guys. It's us against the world. We're going to go try to win a Super Bowl. Let's go. Race was never, ever. I mean, now, harmony does not exist on an NFL team. You got 53 alpha males, everybody working hard. Most guys fighting for their jobs every single day. Tempers flare, things happen. There's physical altercations. There's a lot of stuff going on. I don't remember one thing, disagreement happening over race. Because it doesn't matter. All that matters is that you were there and you were showing up and you were busting your hump and you were trying to help the team win. And do you disagree with guys? I mean, do you like every guy? No, but you respected every guy because of what they were doing. And ultimately, that's that's it. That's it. I mean, nobody's going to agree on everything. I had passionate disagreements with a lot of my teammates, but it was never about race. And we're planting these seeds in these kids that race is the most important thing, and it's just wrong. And you're just setting these kids up for setting up our society for a really miserable track.
It makes no sense at all. And I think that if there's any gift that is going to come from CRT, it's the fact that we've seen it, and it's almost like one of those things. We've seen the enemy, and the enemy is us. We've got to stop this. And thank heavens for the mama bears, the warrior dads, the grandparents. Thank heavens for the people who saw it and called it out and kept fighting, saying, we're going to raise this and elevate this, and we're going to stop it by making people aware of it. But we were and have been guilty at times of complacency. And so this needs to be a moment where we say, never again. Whether the next thing down the road is Common Core or profiles of learning. This is why we need to fund the kids, stop funding broken institutions, blow the system open so there's truly a menu of choices for parents and kids to decide, how do I best succeed?
Well, that's it. Again, I'll go back to what Mike Orr said. He goes, I just need to be in the right environment. One size fits one when it comes to education, not one size fits all. And the public education system was created to educate people because that's good for the individual and that's collectively good for the country to have an educated population. It was not created to serve the teachers union. It in and of itself is not a good. It's what it is supposed to do is the good. And I got to tell you, I have a really hard time with people who talk about school choice is going to destroy public education. No, it's not. It's going to kind of make it a free market, and people are going to go. They have to compete in a way. Schools, which is great. Competition is great, but it's like, to me, shouldn't every question when it comes to education be passed through the first filter it should pass through is what is best for the kids, because that's what we're doing.
I think change is tough. And I remember reading stories, and I wasn't in medicine yet, but in 1965, when Medicare got started, doctors are screaming, this is going to ruin medicine. You're going to set medicine back decades. No, it didn't. Fact of the matter is, Medicare makes so much sense. Are we doing it right? Maybe not. Are there better ways to do it? Absolutely. But change is tough. And if critical race theory is the catalyst by which we are able to recruit not just 35% of parents to come on board, but instead 85%, and we change the world, hallelujah. Let's go do it.
Great. Well, we got a question from Julie. She asks, where can we get the new book?
Well, that's nice. I just... This is the first day. 2 hours ago, I saw the first copy. We've been played, exposing the tyrannical triad, the triad of tyranny. And you'll be able to get it on our website. We're going to be doing all that. We're going to have some at the state convention. But frankly, what I'm trying to say here is that there is a triad of converging agendas, and it's dangerous to the American way of life. It's big tech, it's big pharma, it's big government. And if you don't think that their agendas align, you must be Rip Van Winkle and have fallen asleep for 40 years. Because if you look at the way big tech and big pharma are investing in each other's territories, and if you look at the way they look to big government for the grease to make their machine flow, and if you look at who are the biggest donors and contributors to the people that occupy the political class in big government, it is big pharma and big tech. The other day I read an article that said 75% of the total advertising spend on TV is big pharma. I did not specifically confirm that, but I don't think I need to. We all know that if you didn't have drug ads on TV for ads, you might get to watch more programming.
True.
Well, they fund a lot of the free programming, but I heard that book was just approved by the American Association of Insomniacs as a proven.
Oh,
yeah.
No. This is
page turner. You're saying it's a page turner?
Gouging the marketplace.
Look at there's pictures for Packers fans.
Yeah, that
Packers fans, you can read it too because there's lots of pictures. Oh my God. And also
the doctor-patient relationship is part of the healing process. When we forget that, we've forgotten an awfully important lesson. Dr. Peter McCullough has become a friend of mine, and he wrote the foreword, and he also wrote an endorsement. So just if you want to just send an email to Dr. Scott Jensen's email team, we'll get you the information. But we have got to all team up because America, we are a great country, but our best days have to be out there in the future, not back there in the past.
Yeah. Well, Matt, I got a question for you. And this is a fun one. Do you support Elon Musk buying Twitter?
I absolutely 100% support Elon Musk buying Twitter. It's free market, it's free enterprise, but I'm on the Twitter. It can be a little rough sometimes, which is okay. But I do think, I would have liked to see Donald Trump tone the Twitter down a little bit myself. But when you can deplatform the president of the United States, then free speech. I mean, where are we at? You know, there's obviously, kind of going back to what you talked about, the convergence of big government, big tech, big pharma, the communication platforms, right? I mean, now we're talking about kind of scary stuff. And I don't like to, have this doom and gloom or go to these really dark places, but you have to acknowledge that, like, at least that's possible, or some of it is happening. And, in Elon Musk, God bless him. He's, what a guy, what a story. He's playing a different game than the rest of us. Let's just say that. So I think that'd be great for Twitter. Yeah.
And I think it's worth mentioning that our campaign has definitely taken a page out of President Trump's campaigns. Yeah. He showed us that there is a way to get your message out, even if legacy media isn't approving.
I tell you what, I don't know when it's all said and done if social media is going to be a net win for our world. But the good news is, I was thinking back, think about like back in 2001, in the war in the Middle East, how much stuff happened, good stuff or bad stuff or whatever, that we didn't know about because we had to get our news from the big three, and that was it. At least with social media now, everybody all the information can get out there, and then it's up to the individual to disseminate what's fact and what's misinformation.
Mm-hmm. Well, now let's just call out, a kudo to you, Andy. You put this telethon, Minnesota Freedom Show together, and the reason we did this is because we don't want to be playing inside the guardrails, coloring inside the lines. We want to be out there. We want to be saying, what? Just because nobody's done it before. Remember when you had NFTs? I didn't even know there was non-fungible tokens, and I thought it sounded like maybe a venereal disease. A fungus, non-fungible. So, we do this stuff. We go out, we go to play. My wife still doesn't know what NFT stands for. She says, is that like the NFL? And I said, no, Birk's played in the NFL, but I don't think he's,
playing the NFT.
Yeah, I don't think he is.
We wear purple T-shirts around. We do it differently.
Amen. Amen.
All right, well, I got a question from Michael. He asked, what's the difference between the endorsement and a primary election? That's a good question.
Well, the endorsement is basically a process that begins on February 1st, and you get people going to precinct caucuses, and then they go to their local convention, whether it's a county or a Senate district, a BPOU convention, and they get elected as delegates. So you have 2,200 people gather at a convention in May, and they endorse. Now, getting the endorsement is a big deal. That means that that Republican Party process said that person is our endorsed candidate. Yeah. And so that endorsed candidate will definitely be on the ballot in August at the primary. The hope of the party is that would be the only name, and it would be, if you will, a slam dunk, and the endorsed candidate would be going against Tim Walz, the incumbent, in November. But the other candidates that aren't endorsed do have the legal right to say, all right, the endorsement wasn't mine this time, but I still want to be a part of the campaign for the next 2 or 3 months, and I'm going to go to the primary. And they also can file the last 7 to 10 days of May. And so you can end up having a primary with 2, 3, 4 people, but only one person would be the endorsed candidate. And I guess historically there have been conventions that have taken place where no endorsement was given. And so there was no endorsement. And generally what happens then is the people that were vying for the endorsement go on to the primary. Yeah. And at the primary, instead of having 2,000 Republican deciding, generally you have somewhere between 350 and 450,000 Republicans in the state of Minnesota voting in that primary, and they make the decision. So arguably, in the primary, you have a lot more voices being heard.
Okay. Well, let's move on to a question from Marcus. Marcus asks, following the Johnny Depp trial, what will you do about the treatment of men in the family court system? Matt, I'll go to you for this one.
I have not been following the Johnny Depp trial, but I think I know a little bit about it. Okay. No, I've heard this from a lot of people that men, just quite frankly, in the family court system, they get the shaft. I mean, to be quite honest, and I know that there are a lot of my friends, they desperately want to be very involved in their children's lives, but they find that it's very expensive. It's very excruciating emotionally. Children are used as pawns, and it's an uphill battle for men as the most part. And I'll kind of go high level here. Probably most of the problems that we have in America could be solved if we had better men, better dads involved in the process. And so, by all means, if there's a loving father who wants to be involved in the upbringing of his children, then by all means we should be encouraging that and making that easier, not harder for them.
I would say that the Johnny Depp situation is elevating the need for the conversation. As our family unit goes, so goes our society.
Sure.
And I think we need to recognize that. And I think that it's important that this is not a men versus women issue, because there's a lot of women that also have concerns about the way the court system adjudicates. So I think we have to be committed to asking questions, learning more about it. I would be the first to say that I've had, perhaps this much exposure to this topic, and I need to have this much, and I need to have people teach me and help me understand better what's happening. And I would ask questions, and hopefully we can identify sort of a framework by which we move forward. But clearly, what we're doing right now is not working.
Yeah. Well, I got a question here from Marianne, and it's something that I've been wondering too. She says, Dr. Jensen, why did you pick Matt Birk?
Yeah, why did you?
That's a great question.
Stupid decision.
I want to be honest. I've never liked virtue signaling. I don't like false theater. I don't like identity politics. I think that what we want to do is, as much as is possible, we want to be colorblind. We want to look at another person, not even know what color their skin is. I don't want someone looking at short, tall, or whatever. So did I have concerns that, gee whiz, you got a Caucasian guy here, you got a Caucasian guy here, we're going to get ripped by the media. And I just kept going back to sort of one of my childhood and early adulthood heroes. Now, it's a guy named Bud Grant. And I remember Bud Grant would always be pegged by the press, and they'd say, who are you going to draft at this NFL draft? Are you going to draft a quarterback or a safety or whatever? And he would say, we're going to draft the best person available at the time, the best athlete, the best character, and all that. And I said, there's nobody better for Minnesota than Matt Birk. He is a man of Christian character. He is a person with a skill set that intersects with mine in a way that he's clearly got gifts that I don't have. It's not a simple task to get a degree in economics from Harvard, but to do it when you're still committing 4 to 6 to 8 hours per day to your sport, and you're representing your whole university and still finish in 4 years, that's a huge achievement. But lastly, if we don't have determination this time around, if we don't have ferociously determined people to get it done, Minnesota's in trouble. And Matt Birk, and I don't mean to be hitting on you in this one, now I'm not being funny, but he wasn't a first-round draft pick. He was a 6th-round draft pick. And he worked his butt off. And he was a Pro Bowler. And he won the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. And he won a Super Bowl. I mean, I can't give him enough credit that this is not a kid who grew into a man that was having an easy ride. This was someone who got up early in the morning, stayed late at practice, and got it done.
Well, now I feel kind of bad for making fun of your small arms so much. Jeez, that was kind of nice. Let's go over here and suck my thumb.
All right, well, we can move on to the final question, and this was something that we always do on all of our podcasts, and we want to end this Q&A session with some positivity. What's good, Scott?
Well, it's an easy one for me, and I didn't tell you or Matt or anybody else what I was going to say. But what's good for Scott Jensen is Matt Birk's wife, Adriana. She has been.
Where's this going?
She has been such a supporter of Matt. She and Matt have 8 kids. She runs a home. When she's been out and about on the campaign trail, whether it's a launch or whatever, she has such a earnest thoughtfulness about her. She meets people beautifully. She's saying, I know that Matt's not doing this in a vacuum. This is affecting me. It's affecting my family. I think that Matt and Adriana were with my wife and I on their anniversary night. I mean, we've imposed on them over and over again. And Adriana's she's been a true patriot. She said, I'm here. So, you won't see her as often as you'll see Matt, but it's huge. My wife has been a rock star.
Yeah.
And so for Matt and I to be able to do this and have wives that just, they keep us in line, they give us good feedback, and they're there. It's a gift. That's what's good for me.
Matt, what's good?
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to co-sign on that too, because it's the truth. Marriage is a great adventure, and this is not easy, especially when you got these kids at home, and it's not all, it's not all green lights and blue skies, but my wife has been a total rock star. I know she's watching. Honey, love you. We're on the road. You're going out at night. There's a sacrifice involved, and you know what? That's hard, but also that's what makes it good. Because if there was no sacrifice, then it'd be like we'd just be out here like whatever. But there's, it is, and I'll gladly do it. I can get the easy part, doing this stuff, going on the road, talking to people. That's the fun part. She's got the hard part. And so I know everybody I'm talking to, anybody who's out there, just anybody who's in a marriage, it takes. I think it takes three. It takes three for a successful marriage: the guy, the gal, and God. I'm lucky that God put me with an awesome woman, and it is true. She must like you because it was our anniversary night where you were like, "We got to talk about this, Lieutenant Governor. The only day I have open is February 8th." Like you were going all over the place, so we agreed to have dinner with you and Mary on February 8th, and Mary's awesome. And then March 8th was the launch, and that was Adriana's birthday. So I think when this is all said and done, I think she's going to remind me of this. It's going to be really expensive for me, but no, she's an awesome partner to have on the journey.
You think God doesn't have a sense of humor?
Yeah, well, he does. He does.
We're going to move into one more commercial, and then you guys are going to close us out.
And what we're going to talk about in the last segment is, Matt and I have talked about this before. We want to just have a few minutes of conversation about straight talk. Mm-hmm. We're so tired of the jargon, of the political spinning. I don't think there's any sin in saying, I don't know, or I'm going to do some due diligence on. But we're going to talk about just plain talk. And I'm going to, quite frankly, we're going to talk about the parties, both the Republican and the Democratic Party, when they fail to participate in straight talk.
Well,
because when we fail to do it, everybody pays.
Mm-hmm. Well, stay tuned for that. And thanks for sending your questions in. They were fantastic. And we'll see you guys in a minute. Thanks.
Tim Walz claims to be one hell of a football coach. 2 years ago, he said it was halftime in Minnesota. Today, time is running out in the fourth quarter, and under Tim Walz's lack of leadership, we're losing badly. The team he's put on the field has been a disaster for Minnesota. His lockdowns destroyed small business and did untold damage to our economy. His political pandering has moved the goalposts and prolonged the pandemic. He is soaking our seniors with taxes. His inflationary economy is leaving most of us behind. He let lawlessness and violent crime get out of control. And he gave in to the teachers' union to hold our kids down. We need to take back the field, but we can't do it alone. We need a teammate who isn't afraid to hit back. We're going to fight for students over broken institutions and empower parents to make the best decisions for their kids. We'll make our state safe again and support the first responders who put it all on the line. We're going to lead Minnesota into a future that brings people here instead of sending them to states with more opportunity. We need a teammate, a champion who loves our state as much as we do.
I'm Matt Birk, and I am joining Dr. Scott Jensen as his Lieutenant Governor. I'm a son of St. Paul, raised my family here in Minnesota, and learned what it means to be a winner. I want Minnesota to be a winner.
to have the best schools, the best environment for small businesses, and be the best place to raise a family. That's what Scott and I are fighting for.
Together, and with you, we're going to lead Minnesota's comeback. It's the fourth quarter, Minnesota, and time's running out. Who do you want to have the ball? Folks, welcome back. We've had a good time tonight. We've wanted to put this Minnesota Freedom Show together because we have got to have plain talk. We've got to talk honestly with the voters in Minnesota. We absolutely have to break through. So what I want to talk about, Matt, you said, let's do it. So this is one of the headings in the book I wrote 7 years ago. It said, plain talk makes room for disagreeable skepticism, and in so doing, accepts the adversity rooted within candor. This is what needs to happen. This is what a recent politician said. He said, the second guessers who talk a good game but have never had to personally engage our enemies. Bottom line is, what we're hearing from our politicians is they expect you to shut up, sit down, and stay in line. And if you have a differing opinion, you probably don't know as much as they do. Somehow we have got to break through this barrier, Matt, and say that this campaign is going to be so upfront. You will hear us make mistakes. We'll confess, we'll move on. But did you hear that clip the other day when Kamala Harris talked about maybe 45 seconds? And
about space?
Yeah, about space.
Yeah, it was.
And
that was interesting.
I mean, I played it 3 times because I said, I missed the message. I missed the message. Why don't we watch it right now? Let's have the viewing audience take a look at it right now.
We all watched the television coverage of just yesterday. That's on top of everything else that we know and don't know yet, based on what we've just been able to see. And because we've seen it or not doesn't mean it hasn't happened. But just limited to.
So there you have it. Matt, you and I both seen the thing. I don't know what you're saying. And I don't know if she was filling space, if she was intimidated, if she didn't have any comments. But what are your thoughts about straight talking politics?
Well, straight talking politics would be nice. I unfortunately, I do think that, and I'll tell you this, when I played football, sometimes you get a question, which from a sports reporter who's trying to get you, or get you to say something. And there's an art to speaking and saying nothing, which is valuable when you're on a football team. But I think in politics, unfortunately, it's valuable. Because you can just do that and you just make fun of him or her and then you move on. But it would be nice to just talk straight. And I think you and I do that for the most part. I hope someone reminds me every single day to keep talking straight. But here's the thing in the public square these days is that, people get so upset if somebody has a different opinion. John Harbaugh talked about it tonight. He said his dad taught him and his brother Jim, the head coach at Michigan now, that confrontation is not a bad word. Confrontation means like, we're just going to get out here and we're going to figure out how to get it right. Yeah. And that's what we need to be looking at is, spirited discussion is great. It's healthy. It's actually fun. Yeah. It's invigorating. So yeah, let's make a pledge right here to everybody watching and everybody in Minnesota. We're going to talk straight. We're not going to say everything right. We're not going to say everything you agree with, but talk straight. And that's how we make progress. Because at the end of the day, it's just about getting it right. That's it.
I remember when I was in the Senate, and I remember one time I had to speak to, I think it was a bunch of 5th graders. And one of the kids said, well, what do you really do as a senator? And I remember sort of
smart kid
thinking about it. And I don't think I gave a very good answer. I think I flubbed it. And so I was walking back to the Senate office building and I thought, well, what do I really do? What do I do in the best of times? And I came up with a better answer. And I talked to 4th, 5th, 6th grade groups and adults. And I've used this. And it's my 5 L's. And I really think it's important because for a senator, too oftentimes we jump into that L that is the first letter of the word legislate. And that's wrong. What we really should do is we should listen. We should learn. Those are pretty self-evident. Listen and learn. But the next thing we should do is oftentimes we don't even have to lead. If we listen and learn enough, a lot of times our next step and it will be for you and I as well, is we need to link. We need to link people together that maybe have the right questions and have the answers. And we don't even have to be involved because all we do is be noise or slow the process down. So I think we forget the value of linking people together. And I'm going to guess when you and Adriana started your school, that there were a lot of times where you realized you didn't have to solve it. You just needed to link the right people together. They'd take it from there.
Yeah, just get the right people around the table. And
yeah, link them together. And then I think the next L has got to be, don't go to legislate, lead. And in leading, don't think you have to be the brightest guy in the room. Be the leader who gets the conversation going. Be willing to say the stupid thing. A lot of times for a brainstorming session, I'm sure you've been there, I've seen the most valuable person in the room be the person who's willing to put out an idea that may be half-baked, but it got it started. Yeah. And they were willing to take the heat and the criticism for not having been brilliant.
I think being able to put out great ideas that stink is one of the greatest things when you're trying to start a business or solve a problem.
Yeah.
Great ideas that stink. They're very valuable.
And then the last L, of course, is legislate. And I think you as Lieutenant Governor and me working alongside of you, I think one of the things that we're going to have fun doing is we are going to lead the conversations and we're going to scare people because we're going to be so upfront. We're going to shock people. We're going to say, I don't know the answer to that. Could you ask me that question tomorrow? Because I promise you, I'll know a lot more tomorrow. I remember a couple of times in my adulthood watching people flub and they tried to BS the audience, and they would have been way better off just saying, gee, I really don't think I've done the due diligence to answer that question. Well, ask me tomorrow and I'll be ready. I think that you and I are going to be willing to do that.
You said the 5 L's. One time, Jim Caldwell, who was a coach of mine, won a Super Bowl with the was an offensive coordinator of the Ravens and a great coach with the Colts. And he said all of his dad and all of his brothers were preachers. And they said they'd have a guest preacher come to the church, and his brothers would always say, hey, preacher, just remember the 5 B's when you're up there. Say the 5 B's. Say, be brief, brother, be brief. Sometimes with straight talk, that's what it is. It's just brief, Yeah. I mean, just because you have 5 minutes, it means you can use. Some people, it's why use 40 words when 400 will do, right? I mean, it should be the opposite.
Yeah. Well, Matt, I don't have a lot more to say other than just to challenge the listeners. We are going to be a different kind of campaign. This is a partnership. Minnesota is in a place that most Minnesotans, regardless of the side of the aisle you're on, we recognize it. This is not a path that's sustainable. We could go into the issues, but I think you and I wanted to have a little bit more fun tonight with the audience rather than typical politics.
Yeah, I really want to engage those people in the middle. You got partisan people, and that's fine. But I really want to engage people because that's where we can, I think, have these honest conversations where we're coming at it from goodwill, and so are they. And then you talk about different kind of campaign. I mean, obviously that's happening, and it's working. I mean, we're feeling the arrows every single day. And I would ask the audience one more time, please go to drscottjensen.com/freedom to donate. We're fine. We know the Democrats are going to have way more money than us, and that's okay. I kind of like being an underdog, Scott. I don't know about you, but in my life, I've kind of always been the underdog. I was the fat, chubby kid, and didn't do well in school early on, turned out okay. I like the uphill battle. I always rooted against the Chicago Bulls, if that makes sense. I always root for the underdog. That's why I'm a Minnesota Vikings fan.
And I can relate to what Matt's saying. I was always the kid with the toothpick biceps. But if you notice the whole program tonight, I've got 50 push-ups under my belt, and Matt Birk has 0. So I think for now,
do I need to do push-ups?
We're gonna. No, I don't want you to embarrass yourself. I mean, after what I did, it'd be pretty tough to match.
That was something. That
was something. Yeah.
Might have been the moment of the night.
So if we could, as we say farewell, this is the Minnesota Freedom Show. And this wasn't scripted, but there's a guy named Andy Schmidt who put his heart and soul into this, and a guy named Rick Bush who put his heart and soul into. So kudos to those two guys, and we're going to sign off.
And Maddie too. Maddie really, she did all the work.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, she did. Yeah, they didn't tell us that.
Andy and Rick are over there drinking White Claws.
Well, they turned into apple juice because it had been.
That's right. Well, they're driving now. They don't know what apple
absolutely.
juice. Yeah.
So, folks, thanks a lot. Matt, you go ahead and close her off.
Yeah. No, I just people in Minnesota, thank you for joining. Scott and I are looking forward to the next few months, and And we can't wait. We can't wait for November, and we can't wait to take Minnesota to where it should be.
Minnesota is a marvel. Its natural beauty and rich history are like none other in the world. We've seen companies built here, lives changed here, and history made here. But the most impressive part about Minnesota is its people. We sometimes forget the intrinsic greatness found in the hearts of Minnesotans. The politics of the last couple of decades have clouded it, but our farmers and miners continue to steward our land and create value for the rest of the world. Our parents and teachers sacrifice to make the lives of our kids better. From the Iron Range to the Twin Cities to the prairies of southern Minnesota, our people want the same thing: a fair shake, a safe neighborhood, and the freedom to pursue a future. That's what a Scott Jensen administration would mean to Minnesota families. I've grown up here. I've seen the challenges. I've stood strong because that's what Minnesotans do. We will not be smothered by a culture war or partisan politics any longer. We want to move into the future with a pioneering spirit, guided by courage and seeking greatness. But as we heal from the policies of the past, we must also take back the reins of who we are and lead. Lead the nation in education, in good jobs, in safety, and in human dignity and personal freedom. The spirit of Minnesota is still strong. It's time to reclaim our place in the world and lead.